All right, everybody, welcome to Doe's Town, another episode of the podcast. We're actually kind of spoiled. It's 2 in a month. That's crazy. So JP and Grayson are with me as per normal, and this time we have Kush, new guest, new pod, new guest.
Hello.
Yeah, do you
was
want
good.
everybody to know you as Kush? Is that
I mean, yeah, I guess. I think that's pretty much like the persona now. Everybody calls me Kush wherever I go, so
yeah?
kind of like used to it now. I like it.
You can do the stingy rebrand.
Yeah, I know. I might do a rebrand. I haven't figured out what yet, but I definitely want to rebrand.
Listen, anything that's better, anything is better than Schmoyle. Is all
Yeah.
I got. That's not even, like,
I actually was gonna take Schmoyle. I was gonna take the stingy from him, but
I'm just saying,
Oh.
Schmoyle was a low tier rebrand.
yeah, that's just really bad. When he announced that, I was actually like, what is going on right now? Like I'm being trolled.
Yeah. All right, so we're a week and a half away from Nats, and we had just finished the Treasure Cup that was OP09 that was delayed, the Booster Boxes Treasure Cup. So we figured we'd talk about the list, kind of our thoughts, and then maybe talk about some of the decks we recommend for Nats if you're still undecided or even care. So let's start from there. Let's start with first place. Mainly's first place list. You guys can see this, right? Yep.
Yeah.
I guess we the general community does this like the control version of Shanks, right? Because he's playing the Lucky Ruse, the Building Snakes, and the 7-cost Newgate, right? It a little more focused on like the board control aspect, and then trying to stall it out so you get to like the 10 drops. How do you guys feel about Shanks so far? The different versions of the list. I think I'm personally not like enthused by control Shanks. Like I don't think it's very good, but like I could see why it's nice to play. Like, it seems a little more consistent.
I think I like this list, honestly. Outside of like the 2 event searchers, which I don't really care for, having Dragon as a tool in conjunction with the like control aspect of the deck, I think is really useful. Because I've seen like a lot of like control builds that just run like 4 Building Snake, 4 Lucky Roo, 4 Dad, and then just call it a day. But having Dragon as like that other thing is really nice. I think Yasop's also extremely good in this meta right now too, and I think it should be kind of like in every list at this point. It's just too good.
I think having Dragon plus Whitebeard to make Yasop kind of like actually good, I think makes more sense. Like I wouldn't play him in like a normal build, but having the build to cheat the mana or like the Dawn on him, so he's actually like getting his free ability seems kind of gas.
Okay.
Yeah, I like the. I don't know. I'm not a big fan of this list. I think like even now I'm still not a big fan of it. I do like the like Whitebeard because it's like obviously like a red jack, but I definitely agree with like the Yasop take. I think that card is actually pretty gas. Seeing people play it and it's just like, oh, it's like makes it harder for people to swing at Shanks. Like you really can't poke 6s or anything like that. When I think it's pretty good, but I'm much bigger fan of like the other list was just 4 of everything. We just run like 4 Shanks, 4 Dragons, the Marcos. I thought the Marco was really good. I've been testing it, and between like Marco and Ace, I actually like it a lot more as more of like the 5-cost version of it. But I can see how this could be like more consistent, and I guess in like a bigger tournament, I can see why like Mangley chose this, because you're allowed to kind of like dictate the pace of the game, where the other deck, if you just draw like 6-2Ks, I don't think you can do anything. You just pray that you just draw into some big drops. But in this one, you have the Uta Searcher, which isn't pretty bad.
Yeah, I think that's maybe like something that I guess I just don't like is missing like the Marco or Ace. Like not. I'm assuming because of his matchup spread, it didn't come up as much. But like, I guess it's also most people didn't expect a lot of like black decks to actually like perform like Lucci or Teach. Which is like, so it's kind of weird to not see the sticky 5 drops like the Ace or the Marco. But I guess if it's not an issue for you, like his selection of like 5s and that middle game curve is good enough for sure. I mean, Yasop, like I think was definitely a good choice, right? Considering that he played like 4 Dofis or 3 Dofis or something is what he said in his tweet.
Yeah, he played 3.
Yeah.
He played 3 Dopey, 3 Ploofy, and Bonnie, Lucci, and I don't remember the other 2.
Mm-hmm.
But like he played like all the aggro decks, so like he definitely got like a good testing spread for like the Yasop and seeing how much value it got. Which if you see the spread of Dofi Ploofy, it probably gets all the value.
Yeah. I think.
But-
I do like.
Oh, sorry, good.
I was just gonna, I really do like having Marco like in a Building Snake list though, because he just gets so much value with that. So not having Marco seems a little bit odd, but I guess Rayleigh's pretty good too. Play search card draw, which usually Shanks decks struggle with.
Yeah.
He doesn't have the Red Hawks either. That was another thing. I think Red Hawk is like just insane. Just the fact that like that card is included is really good. And I like obviously the sack factor is a thing, but like I remember when I started playing the game, I actually won a couple games in a treasure cup because of that card, playing like starter deck Luffy, where it's like the last life trigger minus 10k on a swing, and then they just lose the game. Like obviously that doesn't come up all the time, but when it does happen, it's just like it feels amazing. Your opponent's just like so upset. You're like, oh man, thank God.
Yeah.
I actually think that card is like really good into Dofi. So I'm surprised by that list. I even talked to him about it, and I was just like, I wasn't a big fan of it, but like I really do enjoy the Marcos. Like if you get a Hongo out early, you're able to like Marco things on 5, and then if you curve from 5 up, you know, I feel like the deck just becomes like insanely strong. I mean, obviously with this you still have Yasa, but it's a little bit different, like because it is a control aspect more. So you're just more playing the long game, which I don't know how much I like that, to be honest.
How do you feel about the one of 10 cost Shanks that pops a 10k? I think like me personally, I feel like it has like a really strong place on the list at like 2. So I'm glad to see it like show up as at least 1 copy, but I know people don't really play it in the other version of Shanks.
I was talking to Mengli. I actually want to play another copy.
Yeah.
Like, I really like this card right now in the meta. Like, honestly, I think I'd rather play him over 1 copy of the Event Searcher and just play 1 of Event Searcher. I think he is actually just like really strong in the meta right now, especially if you're like assuming you're going to stay a lot of Floofy. So it's just like, I don't know. I think the pop is too good, and if we expect the Shanks mirror, which it looks like the Shanks is like getting more popular right now, then I think the card just gets better, right?
Yeah. I think
I like the
sorry,
card too. Oh, no, I was gonna say I like the card too. I actually tried it at 1, and I wasn't a fan of it at first, but like you said, when you like even you play like Bonnie, any other decks where you're able to kind of play the long game, it's really good because then you can just pop things like even if Han goes 6 on board, or say you're just going like a 10 Shanks mirror and you're all dropping your own Shanks, like you just get a free kill if you have 1 or 2 on board from any like 12k. So I actually think it's pretty good. I don't know if I like it at 2, but I think in this list, like it would actually be better at 2. Like I would just take the Searcher out and put it at 2. Yeah.
I think
my thing is.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say, if Blackbeard doesn't play around it, and like, because a lot of the time in the late game they just don't really respect your on plays because they don't need to anymore. I think that's where it could shine. Is like you have Hongo on board, which normally sticks a lot of the time, or like even Building Snake pass. Once they get to that point where they're just 10 dropping, they can't really afford to like actually like care about Hongo or like Building Snake. I feel like that's where you get a lot of value off like Hongo or Building Snake, and then doing 10 drop Shanks and you just kill a 10 drop. I feel like you just auto win the game if you pull that off.
Yeah,
makes sense. Yeah, I think the other thing is that like in these aggro matchups like P-Luffy and like Dofi, I found when I was like testing the deck like for a very short time was that like sometimes you would stabilize, but you're not in a position to win the game. But they just play like 3 standing bodies, and if you could kill 1, it helped you so much. Like it actually would get you over the edge there, and that's why I think there's a lot of value in the second copy just to make sure you see it in those situations. But it's definitely like not preferred, right? Like if you could play the Rush Shanks, you should play the Rush Shanks.
Yeah, I think my biggest issue with it, like when I was testing it, was like whenever you have the Rush Shanks, it's just you rather would play that if you can. And most of the time, like the blanket minus 1k is actually insane. Like you get to just like minus the entire board, and if your opponent messes up their swings or their like Don allocation and just like do it wrong, you just win the game on the spot.
Yeah.
If you have two or 3 of them out, there's nothing they can do. Like they never get removed. Your opponent can't swing at you because they have 7Ks that are 4Ks now. So that's the only reason why it's hard for me to justify it at more than 1 in the other list. But I definitely can see the value of it in the control version of Shanks.
Yep.
I feel like, especially against Pluffy, like sniping the 9 drop seems kind of insane to me. Or like even sniping Luffy Taro just seems very strong.
I would
Like-
say, because that did happen to me this weekend. Yeah, I think you have to be ahead for that to work. Because my board was already too wide. So he sniped my 9 drop, but I was like, okay, here's another. Like,
Yeah. The thing was like, I was pulling it off where it was like, oh yeah, I rally your small guys the turn before, and then like all you have is like Luffy Taro plus 9 drop, and I'm like, oh, snipe 9 drop, and then like now you're just like actually like even with me or behind at that point, and I feel like from there you can get snowballed out.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
So I just overall like, of course this is the successful list here, right? And I mean there's other versions that we can probably I didn't look through the topping list yet, but I'm sure there's somebody who topped with like the normal like 4 of everything, a bunch of 2Ks.
Yeah.
But how do you guys feel so far about? Do you think this is like the preferred list here, or do you think that there's still a lot of wiggle room and preference, like up to player preference for in terms of successful Shanks lists?
I think it's unexplored still.
Mhm.
I think that Whitebeard in conjunction with 10 cost Shanks is an actual broken combo because you're a 7k leader plus everything's neg 1. Like, that just inherently makes a lot of sense to me. So I think that has a spot, but I just don't know if it's really been tested a whole lot yet.
Oh, not okay, yeah.
9 cost Whitebeard. Yeah,
I
sorry.
can see that, yeah.
I've seen like so many different lists. I remember like watching like when Lucci first came out or like Gecko, people just put all kinds of different cards in. For Shanks is like the most like tech or different lists I've seen ever for any deck. Like every time I look at a list on Twitter, someone posts a list, it's like different. I don't know if you've seen like Quintana's list, but his is like more of the rush aggro
Yeah,
variant.
I played him. Yeah,
Yeah,
not
and
fun.
I'm just like,
not a good time.
like it's crazy because I've been testing the list. I haven't tested the control too much, but just seeing the other lists, I'm like, man, like there's so many different ways you can build it because the leader ability is like kind of it's just really good inherently because you
Very generic.
can't get poked. Yeah, so it's just like, all right, so you can just build this however. You can be super aggro, you can play the slow game, but I think going into Nats, like Shanks is probably a good pick because like I'm thinking about playing it, and I think that a lot of people are just gonna play whatever they want to, like what they're afraid of. Like people are just tech for like Dofi or Lucci or anything like that, and then start to build a list around that. And I think we'll just see all kinds of different Shanks lists.
If you
Does that
recommended,
remind-
if you recommended Shanks to someone, would you recommend them like this version, like more towards the control version, or do you think you would recommend them like the other build?
I like the 16-2K one. I think that it's just consistent. Obviously, like if you draw the second half of the deck, like the later parts, like the Rayleighs, if you can curve out. Because I was playing it yesterday, and it was like whenever I see a 5 drop, the game feels so much better, right? Like whether it's Marco or Ace, because then from there on out, like I have a sticky body the rest of the game. But whenever I don't see that, it feels like impossible. So I definitely think that other version feels better. But I think this one, if you have like the control aspect down and you kind of like can play slow, I definitely think this one is like another list. It was one of the two. Like it just depends on like how your play style you want to play. I think personally.
I think this deck a lot of the for me at least, it reminds me of the, like old Whitebeard, where like you can play. There's like 3 different builds that are all like successful, and it just kind of comes down to preference.
That's good. All right, that's enough of Shanks for now. Maybe we'll come back to the other version. Let's talk about this one. We had talked about last time on the podcast, Bonnie, and I said I wanted to play it, but I got shot down very fast. Is all I'm saying. But so far, Bonnie's in an interesting place, right? I feel like she has a really good matchup spread, but at the same time, like the deck didn't get really anything new. It didn't get particularly stronger. I just think the matchups got more interesting and more varied. I don't know how you guys feel about this deck.
I feel like a lot of it just comes down to the meta didn't really slow down, but like it just losing Lucci is like their worst matchup by far, or like it at least being a lot more like uncommon. I think helps a lot. I would assume 9-drop Shanks helps in the Shanks matchup enough that you can probably get by.
Kind of helps.
My only thing is, I'm just curious how they beat Pluffy. Honestly, like that matchup seems like it'd be really hard. But maybe because they just can't answer your Cavendish easily, like that and Carrot like is enough to like snowball games.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. You need to have 9 mom like on curve if going first to deal with Cavendish. Otherwise, you're just kind of you're out of luck, man.
Yeah.
You're gonna be sad the rest of the game.
They just Cavendish you to death and then
Yeah.
drop and say GG, shake my hand.
Yeah, pretty much.
But I mean, in the same vein that like Shanks can like slow down like games with his leader effect, right? Like Bonnie's leader effect is much better at doing that, especially versus like matches where they just drop big bodies, right? Because it's like because you save one swing a turn, right? And so it just helps out a lot, right? And that plus the carrots, like since the carrots hit over half of or 90% of the P. Luffy deck, right? Like you can slow down the game enough as long as you get there and draw the cards.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I think Bonnie's actually a really good pick. I think people kind of sleeping on it because I think it's the same as Lucci. Like it's a new meta everybody's been waiting for, so people want to play the new decks, right? Like Teach was fun for a while, Shanks is fun, Pluffy's like on the rise again, so it's fun. But I think that if you can kind of like figure out that Lucci might not be played that much, right? Because I mean, a lot of people don't like the inconsistency of it, even though it's a really strong deck. If you can avoid Lucci's, and I think the good Shanks, I definitely think Bonnie would be a really, really good pick, right? Because like BY is still a really good pick into Dofi. Purple Luffy is going to be a really good pick if you can win the dice roll. And I think Bonnie is really good into all those decks.
Yeah.
Right? Like Bonnie can slow the game down. Like you said, the leader ability inherently just only allows you to swing once per turn. And like Luffy's only going to be swinging like 5K the first couple turns. If you get the rest, jam their bodies, and like Cavendish gets you down back. So it's just, I feel like the way the deck plays is still the same, and it makes it really good versus the majority of the best decks in the format, as long as you can avoid like Lucci and Shanks. I think the deck is actually pretty good.
Yeah, and I mean, like, definitely based on like the conversations that like people have had, and like it seems like the Bonnie's like matchup against like Blackbeard, right, which may be a concern because like it's obviously not that bad, because I mean, at least you still play out threats that need to be addressed, and like of course like it sucks that they have all the removal, like of course you lose those games, but like even like a new black matchup that like may seem kind of bad at first is like, okay, whatever, like you don't really need the on plays for Bonnie, right? And then especially because Hody has rush inherently and it's not reliant on the on play aspect for it, like you just kind of get a free 7k rusher or 8k rusher for 7, right?
Yeah,
So.
you don't get to take a life. It's free. It's perfect, actually. Actually, really good. You just drop Hody. I think, I don't know. Another deck that I think is on the rise that is concerning would be like Smoker. Because I know a lot of people have talked about that deck. I don't know how the Smoker like to Bonnie matchup is. But I think if you can just avoid black, and generally, like, the deck is really, really good, right? Like, you pretty much are good into everything. I think, like you said, Carrot is just really, really good. You have 8-cost kids, so it's the thing that Dofi struggles with. A lot of the list probably won't run Red Walk. So, like, I actually do think that if somebody's proficient enough with Bonnie or feels comfortable enough, that they could do well, depending on their like matchup spread for the tournament.
Yeah, and like it definitely, like, I don't know how you guys feel, but I mean, definitely after looking at all the matchup spreads that of like everybody who posted theirs on Twitter, like the format is pretty open as long as you're able to actually like have a matchup against Purple Luffy, Dofi, Shanks, right? Like,
yeah,
that's pretty much like the only like common denominators. Like, those were the most played, and like, obviously, right, based on the representation, and if you can play into those, you can kind of play whatever, and like pray that you dodge your bad matchups. Especially right now, if it's like Lucci or Teach. It didn't seem like many people played more than like 2 Lucci or 2 Teach, right?
yeah.
I didn't see either. Yeah, no.
I don't think I did either. Yeah, I didn't see either.
Mhm.
I saw Smoker, but I didn't see any Teach at all or any Lucci.
All right, so that's Bonnie. So definitely will be interesting to see how many more people take Bonnie after a solid second place finish, and they want Eggmans, so it's on the up and up. All right, so Dofi list, the list doesn't really change. Some people take their own weird shit, right? Like, I know Cody, for example, top 32, but like he's on like 2 10-cost Kaido in this build
Dragon.
and 1 Mihawk, right?
Yeah.
Like, I don't think there's much to say. Like, these like 5 slots where it's like this extra femur, these grab blades, these Josus or whatever, you just kind of like take your preference of where you want to put them, but then like after that, the deck does what it does, right? Like, it's probably gonna still be the most played in that room at Nats. Like, I would be surprised if it isn't.
I don't think
This
it's gonna
is
be
kind of
close.
crazy to me, actually.
Yeah.
I just realized they're playing no geckos.
Yeah.
That actually seems kind of like that seems greedy. I feel like I don't know.
You think Gecko's that good? I feel like I was having this discussion yesterday. I think that some people, like, I think I talked to like Impact about it. He was like, oh, I think about putting Gecko at like 2 or 3. But I know some people don't like it that much because they feel like the best turn to play it is like on 5 if you have Teach. It's like you just play Gecko, grab a body, and then you can like Teach and then play 3 bodies in that turn. And they're all 5Ks or 6K, so it's really good. But then other than that, like, at most of the time, you just rather play any other 4-drop. So it always feels like that's just the last 4-drop that you would want to play. Unless like you absolutely have to recur something from trash. And then if you get in the mirrors, right, it's just like law shenanigans all day. I mean, that's how when I was in the treasure card, that's how I lost 2 mirrors. It's just like bounce law nonstop. And I'm like, okay, I just can't do anything. I'm at the mercy of law. So I feel like the card is good. I could definitely see it as like a 1 or 2 of, but I don't like not being included. I don't think is that bad either as well. Because like you just play everything else, right? Like your boas, your weevils are always going to just be played in priority over that card.
I feel like if we're expecting the control Shanks to go up in play, which
Mhm.
is I would assume the assumption because it won this weekend,
Yeah.
then I think this card only gets better. I think not playing this card makes it to where you're gonna lose to the Mangly list.
I think also like a lot of the ways like Lucci and like even Ploofy will handle Dofi is just grinding them out as best they can. So if you have that Gecko to recur resources, you can help grind out a little bit better. I think it makes it just a very valuable card in that aspect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think definitely though, like if they don't run into like control Shanks or whatever, right? Or they don't run into Lucci, like it's kind of a good call to like.
I mean,
just
it
cut
makes sense.
right?
I don't know. Like for Nats, it seems kind of greedy. Like
No, for
especially
sure.
since like Mangly won with this list this weekend, it just seems like going forward, you should probably play at least one.
Mhm.
Yeah. I mean,
I mean-
Dofi's like insane because you can just put any kind of text in it, right? So I expect people to play Gecko, but then you see like Cody's list where he has like Mihawk,
Yeah.
Kaido. There's gonna be so many different texts where people are just gonna be right. He even has a zero cost event, which is pretty good as well.
Yeah.
Is he still playing Kaya? Because I know that was the reason why he was playing Kaya.
Let's
Yeah.
take Kaya's
Yeah,
name.
yep.
It's interesting for sure. But
I actually like the Kaya a lot so far. I was
Yeah.
testing it before I swapped back off Dofi, and I think the card's actually not bad. Like, doing like Perona Kaya to like get access to cards you normally couldn't, like getting to draw your like Grav Blade that you normally wouldn't be able to see that turn seems really strong.
Did you have it at 1 or 2?
I did too.
Okay, I was trying it at 1. I think I talked to Cody about it. He said he wanted to bump it up to 2. It is nice. I mean, like we said, when you get to like the mirror and it's just loops all day, like having all you're gonna loop is like bricks, right? You're just looping back boas nonstop, and you don't have a card in hand. So it's like when you need the extra counter, that Kaya is like really, really good. You can just draw 2/2Ks and then just pitch your dead cards, and now you can kind of play for like the survival game.
yeah.
Yeah. Better like you're getting to the point where it's like Teach is on board and you get to do like Kaya Perona, grab Grav Blade, play Grav Blade, and then Teach effect, and then you get to like just bounce back both your like searchers with like Law. Then it's like we're just getting so many resources off the card, right?
Yeah, it's insane.
For sure. All right, let's talk about also. This is Purple Luffy. So there's a lot of Purple Luffy. I didn't
Oh,
expect it to be. I think it's like third most played, right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, third
Just
most
under
played,
Shanks, I think. Yeah.
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 I guess maybe I should have, but yeah. I mean, the deck is pretty like straightforward, right? It's like 90% four ofs, and then like you split your 9 costs however you want, and then as long as you have 4 of this broken ass card, like surely
that
nothing
card
can
is
go wrong, right? Like,
That card is actually like insane. I can't believe that they just gave that card to all purple.
yeah, 4
Thanks,
Government Giant is
dude.
crazy, bro.
I lost I was playing a purple Luffy in the treasure cup, but I ended up losing because he had like 2 giants in hand, and I'm like, okay, like I can't win through this, so I need to put in his hand, and I'm putting him into like another giant. I'm like, oh my god, I can't get out of this card. Like he just kept drawing it. I'm like, I can't do anything.
Yeah.
Like no matter what I poke, like he just draws 2 cards, and like the Don minus isn't that big of a deal.
Yeah,
After
no,
this deck.
once they hit the 10 the first time, it's like okay, they can deal with it however many times they want. Honestly,
I'll give you 2 or 3 of them. It doesn't matter.
I actually really like this list just because they're playing the Queen. I think Queen's really undervalued right now.
Think so?
Yeah. I think it's interesting because like playing Onami's effectively just saying I'm gonna lose a body this turn, and not to mention like this Red Hawk existing. So you like against Shanks, if you play Onami down, and you have to essentially jump it that turn because they'll just be like, oh, I'll hold up Red Hawk.
I just more like if you're going fuck it against Dofi, where you're like, oh yeah, I'll ramp, play Queen, and then like that way you actually can like help draw pieces if you're missing your Luffy Taro combo.
Yeah.
And then like next turn you just ramp again.
I don't know if you can do that against Dofi though. This is the issue.
I
Like,
mean-
then you have to rip 2 again.
Yeah, ramp
for a
twice,
second,
and that's
yeah.
that's usually a little dangerous.
I mean, yeah, but I mean like if it's either that or you just don't play Luffy Taro combo, like I think I'm taking that every time, right?
Fair enough.
No, I think it's fair. I think it's just Kid is general. Yeah, I mean, of course, but I don't know. It's like the first rule of like Luffy Bible: don't like deramp if you can avoid it.
And
Yeah.
you need to get the 7 as fast as possible. Then after that, it
Mhm.
doesn't matter, right?
Yep,
Yeah.
that's
I
why I
like
like
the Kid a
Kid
lot,
so
though.
much.
I feel like I'd only play 2 Usopp so I could play a 3rd Kid, honestly. That's like my only thing with this list that I'm like kind of like
the
iffy
vanilla?
on. Yeah, I'd probably play like an extra Kid. That or I just want to play Bonclay.
Yeah.
But I personally like the
Bonclay's-
Bonclay.
I hate that card. After this
I
weekend,
like
it's my
it.
least favorite card in existence, dude.
Yeah. Do you
Is he
want
not
this?
Heart
skating
hates
enough?
it. Heart hates it too.
It's just so bad. Like it did win me one Shanks matchup because I was able to just be an 11k attacker, which is pretty cool. But like otherwise, it's Dofi, like fairly useless. Against like really anything else, pretty useless. I didn't see a Blackbeard, so that also didn't help.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would just slot it like other things like the Robin blocker or another Onami or some shit. It's just not that good.
I think
Yeah.
I think the Bonclay is pretty good, right? Like, I mean, but the only issue is like if they play the Marco, right? Then it's like you ramped and then you lost the body, right? Then it's like I don't have anything on board.
Yeah, well, I
Yeah.
think Bonclay is like your end of like game kind of like thing. Like you play like a blocker in Bonclay, and then like on 9 Dawn, and then they play their big drop, and you're like, okay, cool, you didn't kill this, so I'm swinging big at you.
Yeah.
I think I don't know. I don't know how this actually works as well as I would expect it to, but I feel like going second against Dofi, like playing this and not having to ramp at all, seems really good. But I don't know if you actually get to realistically pull that line off.
It's fine, I think, but I think it's so much better to play Kid. Like Kid, you get to chump, well not chump, but like you can like block 2K out of the swing, which is really valuable, and then you don't have to take life the rest of the game essentially. So it's like it could be good, but I think Kid's just a lot better.
That's fair.
Yeah,
Yeah.
plus the extra down could be good too, right? Because like you're able
Yeah.
to swing 6 or bigger into like their bodies and stuff like that. I
Mhm.
think the extra down is really good. I definitely think Kid is probably the better card, but like obviously, ideally, you just win every dice roll, go first. It doesn't matter, right? Like you don't need to,
Not me, man.
you never need to play anything else.
We were 3 for 10, baby.
Oh man,
You just gotta roll better, you know.
yeah.
I won the first 3 and lost the last 7.
You're probably feeling good after the first.
I was like, oh baby, I'm cooking, and then they said, nah, you're no more.
So what
No
you
more
need to
style.
do is you need to play Miss All Sunday, and we go back to the OP5 strat, where you just play the going second cards, so your opponent gives you second, thinking they screwed you over, and you're like, yes.
Yes, 9 cost Luffy on turn 3. Good luck.
Yeah.
But
Oh,
yeah,
yeah,
I think the ratios for this deck I'm like pretty much mostly agreed on, right? But I guess let's talk about because this list is a little bit different than like the lists that people have shown me, where they chose not to play the Robin blocker, which I guess is kind of interesting. And then they also chose to play this one over the forecast law. I get like why this is cut. I just kind of miss it when I was playtesting. I will be honest, like. Just having the option to punish someone there, but like like deramping is probably just not good.
Yeah.
If like Enel and BY were more I mean, you already win your BY matchups. Doesn't really matter. And you're the Enel. It's like the matchups that you're good into, like where that card kind of shined because you could punish big hands, but you already win those anyways.
Fair enough.
Just say with Luffy Taro, it's just like it fixed the need to play Law, in my opinion. Because like the reason you played it before was for the like grindier matchups, but it's like now we just go infinite with Luffy Taro,
Mhm.
Yeah, fair enough.
and you also have Sanji. Like you just have so much extra like power that we use it like just didn't used to have. Like I just don't see a reason to play it.
Yeah, like every single card you play early replaces itself except for Luffy Taro.
Yeah.
Because like Zorger replaces itself, Law Searcher, Sangro. It's just, I mean, 9 cost Luffy, 9 cost Lin Lin. Like it's fucking stupid.
I mean, all the cards are crazy on curve. I think I like the card. I mean, I can see it as a one of. I'm not.
Mhm.
I've been starting to be like more into like one ofs. I don't really like running them all the time, but I think the law is just like good, right? Because like you might have grindier matchups, maybe even in the mirror where you just have like a bunch of cards in hand sometimes or stuff like that. Like if you're able to, right? If you're not just curving out and you're just swinging fives and you just have a bunch of cards in hand, then it's like, all right, law, pitch 2. And plus the pitch 2 is always good, right? Like even when you put like Isho and Lucci and stuff like that, whenever you rip the good cards out of their hand and your opponent's defeated, you're like, all right, the game is over, right? I just won. So it's like sometimes I can see the value of it as a one of, but I don't know if I would ever put it more.
I think my issue too is like it gets bounced by like Law so easily in Dofi.
Yeah.
Like so that's like I place much more value like on the 5 cost blockers, and then like 2 cost Robin if they're paying 4 to bounce that, you're like, okay.
Yeah, I'll take
sure.
that.
Fine.
You didn't double play that turn. You just played law, so it's okay.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
How do you feel about the extra copies of the vanilla? Because I mean, like back in like 07 or something.
Yeah,
like
we always
that,
played
like,
7. We played 7 vanillas, yeah.
Yeah, playing the extra vanillas was nice to make sure you had a 4 drop, but like it feels less and less necessary like in this set. But they chose to run 3, right? Whoever this was. So I'm curious on your guys' thoughts on that.
I mean,
the Zoro Joro just kind of takes one of the vanillas, so you're essentially still playing 7.
Yep.
Yeah, but I guess my thing was like I don't feel like 7 vanillas is necessary. I guess.
I don't know, man. If you missed that first drop, you're just sad.
Fair enough.
Like you that's kind of the whole point of the deck is to just be ahead of your opponent. So if you miss the first 4 cost, you're just absolutely heartbroken.
I could see the 6K just being relevant against Dofi as well.
Yeah, and Shanks because they're not your 5 cost or your 5K is not going to go through.
Yeah, the 6K is definitely relevant, right? Yeah. I guess that's
why we
like
play our goat.
the most notable like difference, right? Is that they chose to play like extra copies of vanilla, but like if you look at the next placing Luffy list, which is Zed's list, he didn't play extra vanillas at all, right? He's just like right here. This
Bonk
is
play.
7 turn 2 plays, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I guess
And
is
you
like
could
I guess
say
you don't
11
value
with
bonk play.
Kamazo.
Yeah.
I'm
Oh,
actually
yeah.
curious if they actually were slamming Kamazo or not, because I feel like I haven't seen that many people actually letting Kamazo rip when I've been watching Pluffy games.
Oh, dude, I'm dropping that guy like a bad habit. It's like I'm never gonna play him over like Zorjiro or another forecast, like ever.
Really?
I think at this
If
point.
If
Yeah.
they teach him, like if they
I mean,
have
you're
teach him
like if
playing Zoro,
yeah, like I mean, if they drop Teach on turn 1 going second, then yeah, sure. But I don't usually see them do that. I guess.
oh yeah, I guess if you're going first, yeah. I was
Yeah.
more saying for going second. I feel like he's good in that situation. If you're going second.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah,
it
but there's
depends
also the
on
aspect
your
of just
matchup,
like
right?
having him. What's up?
I think it depends on your matchup as well, right? Because I think like
Yeah.
dropping him and if like you're expecting more people to play Bonnie also is like a mistake. Because like I think this is like your preferred turn too then, like because you would play Kamazo and then they play a Searcher and then like you don't want to swing into the Searcher, right? It just
Yeah, of course.
makes you
yeah.
way too slow, right? So this is like your
Oh
preferred
no, I
turn
was
too. in
thinking
that
I didn't.
situation.
I was just saying I didn't see people play it as much as I expected it to. Like
Yeah,
just
yeah.
on board.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the card's actually pretty gas. I think it's like even like for me, I think like going into Nats, right? Like where we feel like it might probably be an open format where people are going to take a lot of meta decks, but they're also going to try to counter the meta. Where it's like I think that card is just really good because you're going to get the teachers who forget to do a leader ability or don't feel like they need to do it early. And if you have a card like that out, you can Don minus, you get rid of the babies, right? And then you don't have to swing into it. You have like it's good versus Dofi sometimes. I think it gives you value. I don't know if it gives you enough value to be warranted where it's like, oh, I feel like it's that important. But I definitely think just having a card like that or even like the vanilla 6K is where you have just more options to play around where it's like, okay, I'm not limited to see this card or bust, right? It's like majority, obviously everyone just wants Zoro, right? You see Zoro, you win. Like, okay, I just dropped that, search a Luffy, and now I'm just rolling. But I think just having the option in a big tournament like that where you might play any kind of deck or you need to start removing smaller bodies, like putting that out and being able to gain that much value from it, I think can set the tone and like just set, apart that game for you.
Plus, you need
That's
this
for
against
sure,
Foxy, bro. When they play the one cost.
Yeah.
Let me start
Hey,
it.
there was actually a Foxy that was like 5 or 6-0, right? Like something like that. I thought.
Dude,
Yeah.
Foxy always gets there, like very
Yeah.
late. Yeah.
Another issue though, I mean, like this is obviously super niche, but I whiffed my Law Searcher like 3 times, maybe 4 times this weekend.
That's on you.
So,
bro.
like-
I guess you need
So
to
is
play.
it like, huh?
I guess.
Well, I
you
mean,
need to
my
play-
Usopp's slap was just Hokichi, so like
Yeah.
it's the same thing search wise.
Yeah.
But like,
Mm.
I don't know, just having that option to grab another like go to 2 2Ks of like Frankie and then 2 Kamazo or something of that sort, just to fix that search ratio. I don't know.
Yep.
Yeah, I like the Frankie as well. I like the second list a little bit better. I haven't seen too many with the vanilla, but I think the vanilla is actually I like it because, like you said, if you expect a specific type of like matchup, right? Like if you expect like Dofi and Shanks, I think I can see more of the vanilla 6K being used.
Yeah. All right, that's purple Luffy. The other Luffy that ended up topping in was this in top 16? Yeah, and in 9-1, black yellow. The deck just does not die.
It won't die.
And,
It just won't die, bro. Fuck this deck.
It's too consistent. It's too strong.
Yeah, it really is. So I guess let's talk notable changes, right? Like the big thing is for sure the Raigo inclusion in this format, right? Like for people who just like aren't like following with this format, the Black Yellow Luffy just runs Raigo now to out like the 9 cost 10 cost because like it's just so much more efficient than running Ice Age. You don't want to like rely on your 2-card combo there. And especially against Teach, like if you want to try to win your Teach matchups, like you need to be able to Raigo the 10 drop, rather than rely on like some combination of like Ice Age, or Ice Age Kuzan sticking, something like that, right? So while still being able to combo up to like a 7k base leader, which is I guess it is very important. But other than that, the list is pretty standard, right? Like I think it's the only notable inclusions in BY list now is just the Raigo, in place of like the Ice Ages.
This one's a little interesting because they're running the Thunderbolt Sawbow
Bolt
still over
Sawbow,
playing
yeah.
Ace. I was gonna say
Yeah.
that's because I know a lot of people were like, "Oh, we have to play Ace for Dofi now." So I'm kind of like shocked that they're not playing any Aces still.
I kind of like the Bolt Sabo because like your hardest matchup is like I think easily Pluffy. So being able to remove the Sanguro is I think, fairly important.
Yeah,
like,
then everyone's
that-
playing Kid.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think the list is pretty standard. I definitely think that like there's like some sauce where people run like Shirahoshi now, the activate -1/4, the -4 one, because like Dofi and stuff like that, because Kuzan just draws you a card, so you don't want to get pudding.
Yeah.
But like I think the list, like you just definitely have to run Raigo, because like if you play BY, you can't play it without Raigo. You need it because there's Shanks, there's like you said Teach. If you let more than one of those characters stick on board and you don't have a Raigo, I think you just auto lose the game.
Yeah.
And now that you can't, you don't get Gecko abilities, so you're just not playing any babies anymore. You kind of have to sit them earlier, so it's just like really hard to deal with. So you have to get rid of those 10 drops. I think this list is like pretty standard. I definitely think the difference would be like the Sabo for the Shirahoshi or anything like that, maybe for Raigo. But I don't think you, like you said, you can't afford to play Ice Age and just give that many resources up versus those big decks nowadays.
Yeah, for sure. It's very interesting because like we going into this format, it's like, oh, there's more bad BY matchups, but at the same time, like BY feels so well positioned going into Nats, right? Just based off the tops, if you can get past the P Luffy matchup, and like Shanks is not really nearly as bad, I feel like, as we were hoping it would be.
It's more than fine.
Yeah, it's like it's more than fine for sure.
Yeah, if you're a good BY player, like if you've been playing it for a while, you feel very comfortable with it. I think this is definitely the pick, right? Like, because obviously, like the Dofi matchup is not bad. It's winnable. You just people decide to play like Lucci and all that. You win. You don't see like your bad matchups aren't really that like relevant anymore, unless you get like the 1 or 2 Bonnies. But realistically, like you can beat everything in the meta. You just need to learn how to play the matchup. And I think once you figure that out, because of the Raigos, it makes it a lot easier for you. And the deck's just that strong. I mean, dealing with like a 9 to 11k swing every turn for 4 to 5 turns straight is just like it's a little bit too demanding on a lot of decks.
Yeah, well, that's BY. I don't want to talk about this deck anymore. I hope more and more people drop this deck.
No. It means you must be taking Lucci. You're a Lucci player. I get it.
It's time to talk about Lucci because it's we're the Lucci cult.
Oh, faithful. There we go.
Lucci cult.
All right, so this is highest placing Lucci. I think the Lucci list is in a very similar place as Dofi, where it's like the deck was strong enough like as is, and like you don't really, and there's nothing new in the set that like you include, so it's just moving ratios around again, right?
Yeah.
And I guess if we talk about this guy's ratios, it's very interesting that he opted to play both the Soap Sheep and the 2 copies of Uta, which was like a very like early 8.5 thing to play the Utas to try and beat Dofi.
I still hate this card.
Yeah,
I love that card. This card's my best friend.
Gosh, I hate this card.
I'm like 50-50 on it.
Like,
Yeah, I'm like 50-50 on it.
I think
I
it
tested
solves
this
your make you
card.
go second so easily against those decks. It's so funny. Like Pluffy has no way to deal with it outside of Kamazo. Like
Yeah.
it wins you the matchup if you have Brook like on the spot.
I tested this
sure.
card and I swear I was like, I'll run it at 3, never saw it. Run it at 2, never saw it. I was like, I'm not playing 4 of you, so I'm cutting you now.
yeah.
But I ended up, I think you either play this card or you play Hina, and I think personally, Hina has more impact right now.
I agree.
Yeah.
And her ult looks better too. So I mean,
Yeah.
Okay, buddy.
I actually was testing it at 1 because I've been testing a lot of Lucci, and like I have it at 1 with the Hina, but I think it was a 1-1. I think Hina probably has to go up to 2 nowadays, but especially for Nats. But I think that the Uta, obviously, like at 1 is just if you see it, you see it, and if you don't, then it's like it doesn't really hurt the game plan because you have everything else.
Yeah.
But it was really good. I mean, when I saw it was like overperforming, but when I didn't see it, it wasn't like I missed it.
Yeah.
So like obviously I can see it at 1 or 0 because I think it's like you said, it's, if you see it versus Purple Luffy or you see it versus like Dofi and you're able to just like keep everything off board, the game is over, right? You just snowball. But if you don't see it, like you still can just win regardless by doing the same thing that you do every game.
Honestly, I could even see it being good in the Shanks.
it's really good into Shanks.
Oh yeah.
It's
Because,
the
like,
issue is
if
that all
you-
these gremlins are running Red Hawk now,
Yeah.
so it dies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because like I could even see it being like a situation where it's like, oh yeah, rest of this you play like Brook kill Lucky Roo, and then like they have to kill the Brook. They can't just
Yeah.
not kill the Brook, and then they're like, oh well, I can't swing into Uda for another turn. I hope I have Marco. Haha.
Yeah.
And Marco too. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I think the card's too snipeable now, and I think
Yeah.
honestly, like Rebecca Hina Lucci will just always be better than playing Uda, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah, the reach with Tempest Kick is just so absurd with Rebecca Lucci. Like,
RHL, the old combos.
More reliable.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm making T-shirts for Nats.
I already told Dubu I need him to make the SpongeBob all reliable, but with Rebecca Hinalucci.
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't think there's a lot to talk about because I feel like outside of the Utas, like the rest of it is pretty standard. If you like love or hate Soap Cheap, whatever, right? Me and Grayson have talked about it so many times at this point. I think it's like 3 different videos where we just talk about exclusively Soap Cheap.
How do you guys feel about the nightmare though? I feel like I took it out of mine, but I'm surprised that. Okay.
Yeah,
that's what I was thinking.
It's definitely less value this set than last set, but
I think. I just don't like this list. It seems like it, I mean, obviously we're going in blind and we're kind of looking at it from a hindsight perspective, but it seems like his list is just kind of like he threw in as many of the tech cards as he could and just kind of didn't have a target, almost. I don't know. I don't think you play the zombie Luffy, and if you do, I don't think you're playing it at 1. If you actually care about the matchup where zombie Luffy matters, you have to play 2, or you just play the Kaido, and it's just not playing Kaido and playing 1 zombie Luffy just seems very odd.
Unless you're Jackson, then you can do it.
Yeah, you just do one of everything, but that's why I was looking at, because I was like, oh wait, there's no Kaido. Where's the Kaido? I think the Kaido is, I feel like to me, it's more important than Luffy. Because obviously, if you look at the results, right, there wasn't a lot of teach. There's not a lot of your worst matchup, but I think realistically, going into Nats, there are going to be some people who take it, right? There's people who are just I'm gonna take the chance, and somebody might make it with it. So it's if you have to play that, I think having the Kaido just wins you that matchup over the Luffy. For sure.
I'm cool with just playing 1 Kaido over 1 Jack and just be I'm against Control Shanks and they played Dragon on 8 or whatever. I blocked and I'm okay, swing leader, Kaido, pass.
Yeah.
But I'm cool with it. They already have to starve themselves to play the game, so I'm more than happy just to play a Kaido at 1 and just not play the Luffy anymore. But I will say, I think 1 Sabo is super greedy after this weekend. I think you have to play 2 for Shanks.
Yeah, probably after this weekend. For sure.
I think even the mirror, I think a lot of people are going to be playing Lucci. I think Lucci is a really good pick. People are going to play it, the people that have been playing it. And it's if you take 1 into the mirror versus someone who has more than 1, I think you just lose. This is really hard to deal with.
The other thing is this list just loses the mirror because you're not playing Meppo.
Yeah. Oh no, for sure. Yeah. I didn't even see that either. Yeah.
I forgot. I've accepted that some people will just not play Helmet though.
That's crazy to me.
At this point, I think me and Fee talked about all of this for the past 3 days now, and at this point, I'm just this is probably what I would assume would be the standard list my opponent will play when I play against somebody.
I think they're playing the mirror. I think the big thing is people are probably won't play the Nightmare and they'll play 5-cost Kaku instead, right? I think that's generally accepted as a standard in at least the Japanese 09 list, right? If people are using that as the base, there's 2 5-cost Kaku.
Yeah, I think that
card is just so bad in the mirror too. The Uda's actually horrible.
I think
the
Uda
is awful in the mirror.
Yeah,
I'm say that card oh my
cool,
god,
buddy.
Yeah,
it's all right. Here's Brooke. Put it away. Thanks for the card.
The thing these lists tell me is just I think going into a blind first tournament, these lists are good because you have no idea what to expect. But I don't think I would ever take any of the lists to Nats and okay, because you know what to expect. We all should know what we're gonna see a lot of. This tournament was a good indicator, but realistically, we just went into this tournament blind. Half the people I think in their Discord wanted to still play 8.5. So it's people were just throwing decks together to play. So I think that once you go to Nats, the list will change. You have to change it, otherwise you just sacrifice way too many matchups.
Yeah, you just lose so much edge. For sure.
Yeah.
Let's see. Is there? So let's talk about Smoker since it's the
Yahoo!
It's hopped over Teach, which I think is pretty funny. I don't know. I'll let you guys talk about it. I'm done talking about this deck. I talked about to talk with JP and Richie about this deck, and I'm just this is so pointless.
Are you a believer?
No,
he hates this deck more than life itself.
It's not
actually.
I don't hate the deck like that. It's just I feel like the deck is just choosing this is we're choosing to play this at the wrong time. I don't see why you would play Smoker over playing Teach and having a more skewed matchup spread, or you should just play Lucci and have your matchup spread skewed in the other direction. I just don't know why I would choose to play this deck.
This is our NA version of Italian Luffy. That's all. We just decided to one other black deck, and we're gonna run with it. It's funny, I don't know whose list this is, but I actually one of my locals got top 32 with his deck at the Treasure Cup. We played round 4, I believe, or it was round 5, I think it was. We were both 4-0, and I ended up beating him as Dofi, but it was really close. I think he would have won the game if he just transitioned more towards my board towards the end of the game. Like he kind of got a little aggressive. But then we talked about it like afterwards, and I was just like, yeah, I think you do this and that, and gave him a few tips, and then he ended up getting top 32 because after our game, he played 6 Dofis afterwards in a row. And I was like, Jesus Christ. He beat all of them but the last one. So I was like, okay, like if this deck is like, I don't know, obviously like the pilot makes a big difference, but if you're able to just consistently beat the best deck in the format, then I can see why people might want to play this, because I think like it's just a little more consistent, or you're able to see like the pieces a little bit better than you might with Lucci, right?
Yeah.
But like obviously like I think 5 cost Hina is just insane. I know we talked about the Lucci list earlier. I think it was some people, or I mean Tashigi, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
People have been running this card in Lucci for OP09, I believe, in Japan, right?
yeah, they're
It's
trying
like,
it out. It's a little
yeah,
goofy
so
little tech.
Yeah. I think the card is actually like just insane. So having a card that strong in a deck like this, and it's black anyway, so I think it's pretty good. I think the deck is like a sleeper pick, but like you said, I don't know why you would ever pick this over like Lucci if you're seriously trying to like win Nats.
No, I
Yeah,
don't think you
sure.
bring this to
Exactly.
Nats.
Yeah,
Like because
yeah.
you can farm bad Dofis like you would in a Treasure Cup,
Yeah,
but you can't beat like a good Dofi player in a Nat setting where everybody
Mhm.
there is like knows their shit.
Yeah.
Like if
Also, there's just no way I just auto lose to Lucci with this list. There's
Yeah,
just no
no,
shot.
yeah.
no, you do. Oh,
Yeah.
1000%. It's your worst matchup. It's miserable.
Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I tried Smoker at the start because I was like, oh, this deck seems cool, and like your Dofi matchup's not awful, like for sure. But like
It's
your
better,
deck,
better than
your
Teach.
deck crutches so much on did I see Tashigi, and if you don't see Tashigi, I think you just lose. Like literally by like it's such a large margin. The difference of the deck if you just see Tashigi or not is just too much for me.
Yeah, I mean you have to, right? Like that's like Lucci's 8 calls Gecko, right? Like you have to see Tashigi. I think
Mhm.
Tashigi's is more important than any other card in the deck, right? Like
Yeah, but that's the
Honestly.
problem. They have to see Tashigi
Yeah,
and they have to see Gecko.
yeah. You just see it on curve. You're able to drop like Tashigi into like a Tashigi, or like it's weird because this list doesn't run any jacks, but the one I played actually had jack in it. So it's like if you play like Tashigi into like jack, then I think it could be pretty good. But overall,
I
I
think
feel
the
like
other list didn't either.
No,
what
the
is
others
it?
did. I'm pretty sure.
I think it was
Yeah.
3, right?
Oh,
Yeah, this is the
yeah,
other.
this is my local right here. This is his list. Yeah. So this list felt better. Like this list that he
Yeah.
was running actually was giving me a lot of problems because every time I would play a body, he just kept removing it,
Yeah.
and I was like,
Oh,
oh
he's
my
not
god,
playing
like this is
Kuzan
so
either.
annoying. Yeah.
He's playing the Sabo over the Kuzan. That makes sense.
Yeah. I actually like this list better than the other one, but obviously it performed better. But I was just like, man, this list, like playing into Dofi, this list is really annoying.
This is like
Yeah.
reminiscent of like the Gecko list that are running like Hina Brook as like their main engine essentially.
yeah,
So like you can go first or second and be fine, I think, with this kind of list. And like
Yeah.
Borsalino can kind of act as that 6K leader as well, which is really helpful.
yeah. And you have like good plays off of Rebecca. You still, I mean, he includes the Helmepo, so you just have
Mhm.
constant removal. And I think just having an answer consistently to like a tall meta like this is really good. I just, like you said, I don't know. I feel like this list might do better into Lucci, but I still think you lose to Lucci anyway.
Yeah.
Oh, you get cooked by Lucci.
Yeah,
I
so
played
my
2 in
biggest
Dallas. It was so funny.
yeah,
I
Like
didn't
my
see
biggest
Gecko.
fear is just like even if you can beat Dofi, I feel like don't you just like I feel like this especially would just like lose to like a good like Ploofy or like Shanks, right?
You,
Like,
I don't think
you
Shanks.
lose to P. Luffy for sure.
Lose to Ploofy. Yeah,
Right.
Ploofy's
I think
cooked.
Lucci for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, but you can beat Shanks for sure. Like, especially if like you knew like P. Luffy wasn't like a part of the meta. I think you could skew the list a little bit more.
Really? I feel like you would just get out late gamed, right? Like I feel like you have to see so much more than they do just to like contest in the mid game.
No, you
For
don't
Shanks?
necessarily, right?
Or
'Cause-
Ploofy.
For Shanks.
For
Like without
Shanks.
having the Kuzan, I don't know. Maybe the Hina compensates enough, but I feel
Yeah.
like without the Kuzan, it seems really sketchy.
Well,
think that,
I
like-
think like if you know P. Luffy isn't like something you have to deal with, you could play the Kuzans again, right?
Ah,
and then you
okay,
can and then you can just adjust your top end a little bit to like play like Isho to like punish Shanks, right? Because like they're not
Yeah,
gonna
I
see their
saw-
life, and then their cards in their hand are the cards they're gonna start with.
I saw one list. I don't remember if it was posted in here or if it was a list that topped, but it was playing like 3 Isho, 4 Gecko, and that was their top end, and I was like, interesting.
That was the list that topped like in Chile like a month and a half ago or something like that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I think that like looking at this list, right? Like I think if you the issue I have with this deck, like obviously like you just don't mill, right? Like Lucci's a mill, right? Like it's just being able to kind of reset your deck. I think is what makes it hard for Shanks to deal with. because you can just eventually get to the point where if the game goes late enough, you will see your geckos again. And I think here, just having to draw into it, it could be rough. That's where I can see like where Shanks could have the edge, because if they're just dropping like 10 drop after 10 drop, and you're just like drawing a card per turn, you're not able to see it. You'd have no mill. I think you can run out of like real estate eventually, where you just get overwhelmed.
Yeah, for sure.
That's what Sengoku is so strong for, though, too. You just
Yeah, that
pop,
card is
you
insane.
plop Helmeppo and Hina in trash, and then draw 3 cards, which is just
I actually like. I wish that card could
absurd.
be played in like. I wish that card could be played in Lucci. I wish. Like,
We
that
all
card is
wish,
so
bro.
good. Yeah,
That
no,
card
that card
only
is so good.
exists because Sakazuki's banned.
Yeah. No, that card is actually insane because like my opponent dropped it on it twice, and I'm
Bro.
like, bro, like this is crazy. You're just filtering your hand. Like, relax, dude. Like, stop, please.
He just drew
Bro.
6 cards.
Yeah.
If,
Like,
we had,
Absurd.
if we had Sakazuki back,
I mean, we wouldn't even talk about anything but that. That's all we would talk about.
Yeah.
oh my, and oh wait, Tashiki's leader locked a smoker.
Yeah.
I mean, you still get to activate main though, which is pretty good, right? But
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, but if Sokka had Tashigi on
Oh, no,
curve
no, no,
and
no.
they had Sengoku,
that deck would not last the
That's not
tournament.
shake my hand, shake my hand.
It would actually be unfair.
Yeah. But yeah, overall, it's not like the deck is bad for sure. Like the deck is very good, right? I mean, it topped, but it's just like if you're very serious about your Nats run, I think you should really like think about why you would play this deck and have your matchup spread be like a slightly better Teach matchup spread, but like not play Lucci, or just not choose to play Teach. I think is like you really have to justify that, which I think is.
I think we talked about this earlier. I don't think the Teach comparison is like entirely fair. I think the
I
Lucci
just think your
comparison
matchup
is
spread-
more than fair.
I just think your matchup spread is very similar. It's not that the deck plays this thing. Your matchup spread is very similar. Like you're losing to P. Luffy. I don't think your Dofi matchup is.
I'm just saying in a vacuum, you can't like compare the difficulty of Smoker, which is just remove something every turn, rely on Gecko, versus Teach, where like you have like 1 mistake in the chamber, and if you make 2, you probably lose against a decent player. Whereas like Smoker, you probably have a couple just because you have like Rebecca Sabo, you have all this other bullshit.
You
to rely
can
on.
also factor the difficulty part in as well, right? But like
Yeah.
if you're going to Nats, I assume you would be going into it prepped.
Yeah, I'm just saying we have 2 weeks now till that. So if you were prepping Teach like a month and a half ago, you're probably cooked.
Yeah. Oh, hey, I feel bad for everybody that was made in that deck, man.
Yeah.
I don't believe in it. I definitely think that like I was gonna say that where like if you look at the first Nats, right, where like when Jonas won, he took a Nell. Like a Nell wasn't really that popular of a pick. Like people thought about it as like maybe like a meta breaker, but your purple Luffy matchup was like cursed, right? Like it was like, okay, how do you beat these decks? How do you beat like Sokka, good Sokkas? How do you beat purple Luffy? And like he learned the matchups, practiced it enough, and then ended up winning Nats. So I feel like this. I don't know if this deck has that like that level of ceiling, but I can see people thinking about like, okay, you know what, like. This is a deck most people probably are not practicing versus because they don't expect it maybe more than one of. So then that you have that like surprise factor where if you know your matchups and you know how to kind of navigate around it, like you could do some damage. But I don't think like in a day 2 best of 3 format that this deck has any traction.
Mm-mm.
Mhm.
I
think
think
you
if you
just-
want to do that too, I think you go RP Luffy. If I'm
Yeah,
being
yeah, no,
perfectly
that's
honest.
another good one too. Yeah.
Yeah, like if
That's
you want to
good.
do the surprise factor, then just say, hey, I'm gonna drop like 3 9 cost on you, and by turn 5, then that's the deck you're
The,
doing.
the issue is that was it Victor got top 4 with it last year? Was
Yeah,
it?
yeah.
So it's like okay, people expect it. They're like okay, the deck is still good.
Hmm.
Trying to see.
I think there was one on here too as well that topped, right? Or no?
No.
I don't
No,
think
no,
so.
there was just a lot of people that okay, it was just
Yeah.
played. Okay.
Yeah, we covered all the decks. Yeah, it's just,
Yeah,
you Teach didn't even come close. Didn't even
Yeah,
top 32.
I'm actually surprised. I'm really surprised that nobody even got close to that. But I'm sure like people probably played 3 rounds and dropped with that deck. You get a free buy round 1 and then run into like a Dofi, lose, and then might pull off 1 or 2 wins, play another Dofi. I'm like, all right, my tournament day's done.
Yeah.
It's just that matchup is just too cooked.
Yeah, I will say that like going into this, I kind of expected this to happen. Like that Teach wouldn't top. I'm just surprised it didn't top 32. I didn't expect it to top 16, but like, yeah, I mean, based on the representation that we're looking at here, right? Like, if we get anything close to something similar to this at Nats, like I still don't expect Teach to even day 2, which I think is kind of sad.
I'm not gonna lie. I'm honestly shocked that it had more representation than Lucci.
I'm not.
I genuinely expected it to be like very low representation based off like how it was like, because like the play rate it was getting on Sim was really low, and it was just like I haven't heard anybody talking about the deck that much. So I was just like I expected it to be like honestly like a Nell level of play.
I think the issue, not the issue, like one thing to consider is that like some of the bigger YouTubers, like your Jacksons, your Eggmans, all put Teach at S tier, like it's the top deck. So people are just like, oh, top deck, I'm gonna play that. So that will get at least like 50 people right there. I
That's
think that's something to consider.
Yeah, I
That's
think
fair.
the deck is actually pretty good. Like obviously, I agree with the tier rate. I definitely think it's like probably the second best deck. But it's like the issue is if you don't play into Dofi, right? Like you said earlier, the matchup spread is actually really good versus everything else but Dofi, right? Like
And
you
Ploofy.
yeah, you do get cooked by
That's
Ploofy, but
fair.
I think the matchup is a little more winnable if you kind of know how to navigate it. But like you said earlier, it's one mistake and the deck's done, right? Like yeah, I've been testing it. I think everybody's at least giving it a try. Like you play it and then you're like, all right, there's so many different ways that you have to kind of like navigate every matchup, and if you do it wrong, you just lose the game. And it's just like it doesn't matter how many teaches you have in hand, doesn't matter how many you drop. Your opponent just swings 5 at you, and then 15 or whatever, you just lose because you have to sacrifice the teach. So I think it will have a good amount of rep for Nats. I just think it's going to be really hard today too, because I think if it was best of one, then yeah, I think the deck would be good. But in a best of three, that deck, I don't know how you're going to beat any Dofis or Purple Luffys.
Yeah, which I think is like another thing, which is why like you have to consider like if it's not going to perform in day 2 either, right? Then I think there's even going to be less people playing it at Nats than today. If that's the if everybody agrees on that expectation, right? That like it won't perform at day 2 if you've run into either any of those decks, then like I'd be hard pressed to take it.
Yeah,
I honestly don't think I would take it just off the top 32. Like the top 32 chart alone being like 67%, like Dofi Ploofy, like I'm out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no shot, right?
Yeah.
Like no chance.
I think
Yeah, like,
everybody's
if you're
getting off.
serious about a run, right, and not
Yeah,
like
yeah,
trying to be
yeah.
like, oh, I just want to top, like show that you can top with Teach or something, whatever, or be like the first North American player to top with it, then like, I don't know why you do this to yourself.
I mean,
I'm really curious. No, go on, Kush, you're good.
I was gonna say, I know some people who are going to LCQ that are taking teach, and I'm like, don't do that. I was like, please don't do that to yourself, right? Because like
Yeah,
that's
if
more
you're
of like,
serious, yeah, like you shouldn't
yeah,
do
yeah.
that to
I
yourself.
was like,
Yeah.
you want to get to Nats, right? Like the whole point is like you have to get to the big tournament. So it's like if you're gonna try that, just play Lucci, right? If you're gonna play a black deck, but I definitely think that people probably will just go there trying to sack other people or want to go there to try to like do good with it to be there, like you said, the person that makes
to be
a
the
good
person,
run with
right?
teach. Yeah, yeah. But I wouldn't recommend it unless you put enough time and you feel confident. Because I know people have been like checking a lot of stuff in, like, oh, I can maybe make the Dofi matchup not as bad, but I think that matchup is completely unwinnable. I do think Luffy is a little bit better, but
And okay, so now we talked about it a little bit and decided we're gonna talk about what we would recommend for you to bring to Nats if you care. All right, not necessarily a tier list, but we'll talk about the strength of most of the decks. So let's just start with. All right, I see him first. Let's talk Purple Luffy. I think it's fine. Like if you said you would bring Purple Luffy to Nats, I would say yes.
I agree. I think actually is I think you should bring it to Nats. Like I think
Yeah.
the deck is so straightforward that it's like if you expect to play like 10 rounds, right, like the whole day, and you're gonna play probably like another day full of games, right, like whatever top 32. I think having a deck that's just so straightforward, consistent, and it doesn't require a lot of thinking, it's really good, right? Because you don't have to stress yourself out. You're just doing what the deck does. If you have it, you have it, right? If you don't, you don't. I think that mentality is good enough to take people far. I mean, I would definitely say like the deck is you should bring it to Nats if you don't want to bring like any of the other ones that we'll discuss. But I
Yeah.
think that deck is like actually a really, really strong deck and a strong pick to take.
I think the deck is better if you are there for the LCQ, but I think if you're actually there for the day, like day 1, day 2 event, I think the deck gets worse. Because even if we're just like playing the same like ratio breakdown for like representation that we had this weekend, then you're playing it to 25% Dofi, and that seems awful.
I think it's gonna be more than that for Nats.
I
And
think
like,
it's gonna be higher.
yeah,
it's
I
gonna
think
be
you put
higher
like
for sure.
40% Dofi. And I mean, even honestly, like you're favored into Shanks, but if you go second and they're running an aggro build, it's still not fun, and that's also gonna be higher. So
That's fair. And also, honestly, I could see the control build being annoying enough.
Yeah.
It's really slow though. It's a thing, so that it gives you a little more time to just kind of
Yeah.
ram something down their throat. So honestly, if that becomes popular, and
I mean,
you
you're
have
definitely
like
not
a gun with you,
But if you low roll, I think you're cooked. Like you have
Yeah,
to roll
oh.
well against control build. If you
Yeah,
roll
no,
like,
100%.
poorly against control
Yeah.
build, shake their hand.
Yeah.
yeah.
All right. Dofi. obviously, like if you're playing the deck, you should bring the Sonats, right? Like
Yeah.
if you, there's not like if, ands, or buts. If you play the deck, just take it, okay?
Yeah, I don't even think it needs to be discussed. It's literally the best deck in the format, right? Like every deck has to play around this deck, right? Like it's you literally when you're picking a deck for Nats, it's like how well do I do into Dofi? Right? Nothing else matters. It's like how well do I do in a Dofi? If your Dofi matchup is like cooked or cursed, then I don't think you should bring it. Or it's like how do you navigate that, right? Because like you said, if the meta is gonna be like 40 or 50% Dofi, then it's like okay, you should expect to play maybe 2+, 3 or 4. Then it's like, all right, if it's just like a 70-30, right, then why even bring this deck? I think that it's just the best deck. I don't even think it's like you said, if you main Dofi, if you play it now or you like been playing it for a while, I don't even think it's just figure out what your ratios are going to be, what your tech.
So we're thinking Floofy is definitely a good bring because I think I'm in the middle tier for it
I
personally.
am as well. And as someone who really wanted to play Ploofy, I think it's still middle tier.
Yeah, I think you can put it middle. Yeah, I
Okay.
think it's good enough.
Sure, let's go with that. Yeah, I think like Ploofy is like the end of this tier for me. Like
Yeah.
like I wouldn't
That's
say like yeah, like it's good enough. I say yeah, it's a good pick, but like if you
I think
look at everything else that we're gonna put in here, I think like I would be concerned. That's it.
Yeah.
I think in context of how much Dofi there's going to be, I think it gets edged out.
Okay.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
look at like the weighted coefficient, right? It's like if your difficulty goes way up because you have that hard of a room. There's just it was like me bringing Ploofy to last Nats when Sakazuki was like a 50% ratio. Like, it's like, dude,
yeah.
what the hell? What are you
Yeah,
doing?
yeah, what the hell, JP? All right. Okay. Let's leave it at the top here for now, and we get to talk about if it comes up again. Let's see. What's
Nami.
next? What's next? Nami? Oh shoot, bro! I forgot about this deck.
Mm,
I didn't, sadly.
Yeah.
this might be a hot topic here.
Is this one
I
a
think
hot
it's
topic?
strong. I think it's good enough, but it's like bottom of good enough for me. Just because, again, there's going to be so much Dofi, I don't think you can reliably say you're going to make day 2.
Yeah.
There was some JP player, they posted a tier list, I think like earlier this week, and they were like, yeah, you either auto win your match, auto lose your
No,
matchup,
it was,
and there's
it was
no in
Rampton,
between.
right? He's an EU player, and like yeah, like that's what he put. He was just like, and no, I get that, and I'm not sure if it's like enough that I would say like if you're a Nami player, like you should switch off. Like I think the deck is honestly good enough if you're just like if you just play Nami religiously.
Yeah, I think it's good enough, but I think it's like bottom of good enough.
I definitely think it's good enough. Like you said, like Adam, right? Like the guy who's been winning the most with Nami and NA, the most successful Nami player in NA probably, right? Like if he was like, oh, I'm gonna play Nami, I think it was a good pick, right? Like I'd be like, okay, I can see that because I think the deck is actually pretty good. Like I have a buddy going to LCQ and it was like he was like, do I play Nami or Ploofy? I'm like, look, if you can play Nami, just play Nami. Like obviously, I think you will play a lot of Dofis, but I personally think like one of the other decks is maybe the second best deck to bring, and I think Nami matchup is really good into that. Nami's good into Shanks, like Lucci, all that, right? I think Nami's good into everything else. Fair enough, besides like Dofi and Ploofy, that you could take it and still win, but you have to be able like that has to be your main deck. Like if it's not your main deck, I don't think you should ever just be like I'm just gonna switch to Nami and play it for Nats.
Yeah,
I don't think that'd be a good choice.
Nami's an
not a good deck
LCQ
to-
demon deck.
Yeah.
not a good deck to switch to. Good if you're good enough if you're already playing it, but like definitely
Yeah.
at like the bottom of this tier. I feel like just because
Yeah.
just red.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right, let's talk teach. I think I would never recommend anyone to play this deck at Nats. Like unless you really want to, but like it is strong. But I would never.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
it just
don't
gets
think
so
you
much
can
better.
compete with Dofi.
Yeah, Dofi, Ploofy, or if they're both nightmares for you, like and Nami's hard too, but like I think someone could fumble around and beat Teach and probably be fine just by playing out bodies. Whereas Nami, if someone's like, oh, I can swing a 10 here, and Nami's like, you lose now because I was able to draw 2 cards and then now I have my Kaya, so get cooked. So it's like it's a skill check deck, but not as much of a skill check as Nami would be in that kind of aspect, which is why like the hard matchups that you have there don't really matter as much as the Teach aspect does.
Where are we thinking for Smoker?
Smoker.
Shut up, man.
I think it's good enough. I think it's actually good enough.
I think it's
Oh.
better than Teach to take for sure because like
Yeah.
like you said, I think Teach is more like you said a skill check. If you know how to play into it, I think you beat it. I think with
Mhm.
Smoker is like it doesn't matter if you know how to play into it. It's like do they see their pieces, right? Like if they see what they need to see and they're able to curve out and like remove a body a turn and have the ice ages for your big drops, I think the deck is actually pretty good because, like I said earlier, I don't think that many people are testing into it, right? Like I don't think people there's some people who have tested versus it, but on average, some people are like, nobody's bringing Smoker, right? And like when you go to your friend groups to test or you're playing like webcam games or you're going to locals, like majority of the decks are just one of the big three, right? Like you even play Teach before you play Smoker. I just
Yeah.
don't think. I think it's a good pick to play. I think it's good enough for Nats. I don't think I would put it
I
higher
think
than
it's
that though.
I think it's another deck where I'm like, yeah, if you're going to LCQ with this, you're probably gonna win like 5 rounds just because your opponent doesn't know what you're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, fair enough.
And like that, honestly, his leader effect being like that +1 is so strong in a Dofi, like because you're able to like Ice Age something or Tashigi something and then swing 7 into their 5k rested body. Like it's actually not nothing.
Yeah.
As opposed to
Also,
swinging, like, go on.
I was gonna say the 7k swing. Honestly, like the worse your opponent is, probably the more scared they are of that. So like that 7k swing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, it adds up, right? It's taxing. Like even you think about like a purple Luffy, right? Like if they're just swinging 7 at you every turn, right? Then it's just like, man, I gotta keep giving you 2 cards. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, like it can like be very very demanding on a hand for like any deck because most decks do have like 1-drops, right? Like Dofi has babies. Like purple Luffy's gonna play a searcher. Like even Teach has babies. Like there's a lot. Like Nami has the Nami. So there's so many cards that like that Smoker leader will gain a lot of value off of, even if they don't have like other reducers.
Mm-hmm.
All right, yeah, then let's put it like solidly in the middle here. Sounds like we're about right
Yeah.
here, right? Probably better choice to Nami, better choice to Teach.
I'm gonna need you to
Worse than
brainwash me
Luffy,
later. Just go ahead and say that you put that in the bottom tier, though. Okay.
Yeah, my fault. All right, let's talk BY. What? You're a BY player, and you ask Grayson, should I play BY and Nats? Where are we putting them? Up?
Should bring.
I definitely agree as well. I think that deck is actually really, really strong. It's really, really consistent. Your Dofi matchup is good. Luffy doesn't seem that bad. Like obviously they go wider now. Like they curve out with Luffy Taro, but like there's no Magellans, right? There's no things that'll stop your 10 down turn. So I think it's actually a pretty good deck to take. I think if you know how to play BY and you can navigate the matchups, like I would probably honestly just take it. You're not playing any Bonnies realistically. Like you do lose like maybe Lucci because there might not be as many, but I think you can beat everything else. And because Nami's probably not going to be that popular, you don't have to run like rush aces anymore. So you can kind of just go like consistent and run like the Rigels and stuff. So I think the deck is actually really, really good into the meta. I think
I
that
think
is
you're in a-
definitely a shit burn.
I think you're in a good spot. I would just say I think your matchup spread is a lot closer than it used to be. I
Oh,
don't think you
yeah.
can go to Nats like you could in 8.5 and go under the assumption of I have the literal like a 70-30 everything matchup. I think this time it's a lot more 50-50, 65 like 40
Man,
matchup.
I think you need to know how to navigate all those matchups. If you don't know how to navigate like every matchup in the meta that you expect, then don't play it.
Yeah.
BY
And
had
even
like a bad matchup like Ploofy last set.
The Magellans were annoying.
Nami.
No, I
Nami.
guess like Tsunami was that bad because like
I think
Ploofy, I
Nami
do
was
think is like
your-
40-60 right now, if not worse.
I think
Like,
if you
it's miserable.
if you
It was
play Rush
either-
Aces, it was good, right? Like when I played 2 Rush Aces, right, and I ended up doing good into Nami's. Like I think if you
Okay.
play the Rush
And
variant,
I don't
yeah,
think it was. I don't think it was guaranteed even with the aces because you still have to see them and see the punch Luffy's like considerably
curve.
pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Like it definitely was a lot more of like if you did not roll well, the matchup was cooked. But I think if Smoker also is coming in, you now have a bad matchup into Smoker on average. So then that like seems kind of sketchy. But again, I don't think you're gonna see enough Smoker to be like, oh, I'm not playing BY because of Smoker.
Yeah.
Like I think
Yeah.
it's a very good like strong pick. I'm just saying
Yeah.
I think your matchup spread is nowhere near as good as last set.
I think your bad matchups like before you would expect to see Bonnie all the time, right? Like it was in a tournament if I'm in BY because I did play it. It's like I didn't expect to see at least one Bonnie, but like in this for Nats as BY, like I don't think you should expect more than one of any of your bad matchups, right? So I think with that being said, like you should, it's a good deck to take because you shouldn't see like that many Bonnies. You shouldn't see like that many Smokers or Namis. Like maybe you see one, but realistically, once you hit like that, XO by round 6 or 7 threshold, you probably won't see him anymore.
I think my only concern is you're going to see multiple Ploofies, and
Oh,
then
yeah.
also Dopey is still just coin flip, and like that's where it's scary for me.
See
Yeah.
pudding win. That's literally it. You see pudding win, and it's like, all right, bro. I hate that. Card.
Yeah.
And if they're running
The amount of
grab
times,
blades
like-
again too, that
Oh,
gets a little
God, yeah.
dicey.
I think for me, like it's in the middle of this this middle section here for me. Like probably over Smoker, but just because like I think if you're not just not if you're not him, like I don't know, like you're gonna lose a lot
I
of
can
games.
see that. I can see that.
Yeah.
I will say playing pudding roulette sounds abysmal in my opinion.
Yeah. But you
The
know
amount
what's,
of
what's
the amount
weird
of
is like
non-games you're gonna have, where it's just like, oh yeah, pudding didn't hit. Pudding just put me on unplayable, and I die now. Have fun.
I've seen a lot of lists like cut pudding to 2, and I think if they do that, then it's like way better, right? Because then
Did
like
we
2
look
pudding
at
is like whatever.
Did we look at any list in that had less than 3?
No, I think
Yeah,
the,
I think did Cody have 2?
Yeah, I think.
yeah, I think he did. Did he?
Cody's a fiend, so I don't
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
But I'm
Which
pretty
I
sure all
think
the other
like
lists we looked at were on 3.
I think you should be on 3. I think you should be on 3.
Three.
Yeah, yeah.
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 I mean, we can keep
Yeah.
looking.
I would assume your opponent is
3.
playing 3 every time you see a Dofi.
Yeah, no, yeah, I would too. It's just
Card's
like if
too
you
good.
do, yeah, no, the card is actually insane. I've seen some people talk about it at 4. I'm just like, oh man, this guy's a demon.
This guy's. I
Actually,
don't really care if
yeah.
I win.
Yeah,
I just would care if you are not having fun.
I just
Yeah.
want
be
to
fair,
drop
I think-
pudding.
Cody's also compensating because he is playing the Mihawk and the Kaido, so like
Yeah.
he's playing a new card to make the replace the pudding kinda, but he's also playing
Mhm.
the Kaya Perona, so he should see his still pretty consistently.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Mhm.
But yeah, I personally would not play less than 3, and I would assume every opponent you play against is playing 3.
Yeah.
And they've got it. They're not having it.
They always
I
do.
still
They
think
always
always have
do.
it.
I still think the Dofi matchup is like closer. Like I think actually it's favorable for you. It might not be like Lucci good, but like I think it's still it's not that bad. I think you can
With
still
everyone
win.
running so many grab blades, it's definitely like I don't know, like at least in
That's
my
it.
testing, it felt very 50-50. Like if
Yeah,
they were
yeah.
running high grab blade count and high pudding count, it felt very much like it was not in your favor. But if they were
Mhm.
greedy on either of those ratios, it definitely felt favored towards you.
Yeah.
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 And the pudding could always give you gecko nuts, and then you win the game, and then it doesn't matter.
Yeah. That happened in the store regional. I won. It was like the guy gave me like double flampe or something out of off the pudding, and I'm like, oh, sick. I win.
Let's get this one out of the way. Bonnie. It's definitely at least
I
here
think-
in the middle, right?
I think it's actually might be in my top 3 right now.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
should be that. So yeah, okay.
With how good your Dofi matchup and your Luffy matchups are, and we're assuming like you should be able to beat Shanks like on average, or at least go even with it. I think it's in a really good spot because you don't expect to see much Lucci right now. Same with Smoker. And if we're assuming like your 2 bad matchups are like kind of out of the meta right now, then like I think the deck's in a very strong spot.
More Bonnie copium sounds good to me. That's all I'm saying.
I
Good
think
to
Hey.
sell those Cavendishes, little bro.
I
Should
am,
have kept them.
yeah, I think the deck is pretty good. I mean I can see it either at the top of good enough for Nats or like you should bring it because I think it's a good into Luffy. Like the
Yeah.
Dofi matchup isn't bad either. I mean it just runs over BY if you don't see like any teaches at all. I think the Shanks matchup is a little more Shanks favored, but I think that the deck is I would probably say it's like one of the top 3 or 4 decks to take. I would put it over all the other ones that we have besides like Dofi. I definitely think the deck is good enough, right? Like it just does what it does. It's like Purple Luffy, but a little more obnoxious, right? Because you don't get to just swing all whenever you want. Like a lot of decks can't swing because they don't want to lose their body. So it's like, all right, I just play body pass. And it's like, all right,
Yeah.
like I just get to play around and do whatever I want until I get the 10 drop or 9 drop Shanks.
Mhm.
Like 9 Shanks or 10 Dofi. Then I think at that point you lose the game. But I definitely think the Shanks matchup is your hardest matchup in the meta if they know how to play it right.
Yeah, but it's also
Yeah.
like you can compensate very easily by playing like all 4 copies of 9 cost Shanks and just
Yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah.
all right, I counter very aggressively. You rush, and I'm like, okay, well, Shanks. My
Like,
Shanks
even-
is your Shanks.
Even Zoro's a good card, right? Like even
Yeah.
9 drop Zoro's really good because then like you just dropped it on, and if they don't get rid of it, then it's right 16.
Is it?
3 times. Yeah, I think it's pretty good
I
into
think
like
it's
other
pretty
stuff.
good.
Yeah.
I feel like in
Yeah.
the Shanks, especially specifically, it seems like it's okay, right? Don't get me
It's
wrong. I don't think the
irrelevant.
card's bad, but especially if they're playing like the Mangly list and they're playing like Building Snake or like they just rally it. Like if they just rally it, it seems kind of rough.
Yeah. I mean, just like into the
Building
meta, I
Snake
think is
really
good.
rough. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
I
I, think
think-
it's a good card into the
yeah.
meta. Like into Pluffy and Dofi, it sounds like a very like especially with people cutting rock. Like yeah, like if you're ever ahead, you're just like put it on board. All right, I win the game next turn.
Yeah.
Have
so
an
you
out.
gotta try to kill me or lose. I think that the thing though is like with Shanks, the 9 drop is really good, but if your opponent is just smart, right? Like if you just drop a 10 drop and don't swing, then like 9 drop Shanks loses a lot of its like
for sure.
viability, right? But then it's just like, okay, I drop another one next turn and swing both. Like, yeah, 9 drop it. It doesn't matter at that point.
Yeah, no, for
Yeah.
sure.
I think it's just gonna come down to like how the pilots play the matchup. Because like if you watch Mangley's finals where he played the Bonnie, like he played it well, and it was just like Bonnie couldn't do anything.
For sure.
Well, I guess we should segue into Shanks off that.
Yeah, we should. That's good. Huh?
Yeah, where did he
Let's go.
go?
Let's
He's
go.
like right
I
here.
don't know.
Right here.
He's one of the red guys.
Yeah, one of them.
You broke it.
I think this deck is one of the top. I don't know if I want to say 3. I don't know where I put it. Like it's either that or Bonnie for me that are like top 3.
I think it's number 2. I think it's number 2. I think its consistency is so high for me, and like your matchup spread is actually like so safe. I think it's similar to BY, or I think it's similar to Bonnie, in like the sense that like everything you play against is either favored or okay.
Yeah, I mean, you draw your cards, you win every matchup, right? Like I think because this is like a strong consideration for me to take to Nats. This is probably like my 1 right now, and I've been testing it a lot, and like it's just draw, 5, 7, and then after that, if you have anything after that, you almost like win every matchup, right? Like as long as you don't miss the 5. If you have like Ace or Marco in certain matchups into like a Ben Beckman or anything else into like Rayleigh, Dragon, then I feel like I almost win all the matchups because you have so much like life cushion where they can't poke you. Red Hawk does so much. You're using Red Hawk for like 6K swings sometimes, right? Like it's crazy. You're just throwing away a 9K counter like that for nothing. You're just like, here, Red Hawk. It's like, okay, kill the teach. I think the deck is really, really good. It's just so inconsistent where if you don't draw the pieces, you just lose, right? Like in terms of the non-control version.
I will say, I think this deck is definitely in the same, or at least for me, it's in the same boat as Ploofy, where it's just low execution, but like it just has such a high ceiling just naturally.
Yeah.
That like a good pilot only like makes the deck better. But like it's so like there's so few mistakes you can make realistically. I think like it is a very good deck to just take the Nats with like I can coast and just like when I need to think, but I don't have to like kill my brain to play the deck.
Yeah.
I agree.
I think it's a very fundamental sound deck, like a fundamentally sound deck. Where it's like if you have good fundamentals, you just take the deck and play real well, right? Like you just know what to do when to swing board, when to go face, and like you just kind of like run over your opponent because nothing can deal with 10 drop Shanks unless like you just remove it on the spot.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any thoughts on it, JP?
I don't know. I mean, like through the lens of like most likely playing Lucci or Ploofy, like sure, bring Shanks, please. No, I think it's a really strong deck, and like like you said, like it's a really fundamental deck. But I think that's kind of like what the game's always been. Like the red decks have always just been like really strong fundamental decks, like your red Luffy, red Zora, red Whitebeard. We're just like if you had good fundamentals, you're probably gonna do okay with it because the cards in there are so naturally powerful that you can kind of just play good combat one piece and do pretty okay. So yeah, it's really strong.
Red cards are good again.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think for me, I would put this over Bonnie. I think in like if you ask me overall, I don't think this is like my top 3 picks, but like if you took like, I would, it's definitely up there in like my recommendations. Like if you're just lost on a deck, just play Shanks. There's nothing wrong with it.
Well, Bonnie might be too high. The more I look at it, I think she's above Floofy, but I think she's just like the top of good enough.
Yeah, we can revisit this because I think like if you like at the end of this, like we're gonna put these up here personally.
Yeah.
Probably. Another deck I was gonna say, I don't think it's good enough, but I think Foxy is actually a really like strong contender. I don't think he's broken by any means. He's a pretty honest deck, but I think what he does well. I think he is like above Teach, but
yeah.
Isn't it really good into Dofi though?
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
that's
like
his Dofi and his Ploofy matchup are like actually disruptive enough that he can just farm them, and I don't know if Shanks is favored or if Pickles is warped enough for the matchup that Pickles puts Shanks out of the game. Because I know my friends were testing it. I don't remember what they were telling me about it, but I know Pickles is like strong enough against Shanks that like you make it to where like Pickles is the only target for their Rayleigh that turn, and you just kind of laugh at them because they're like, oh, I can't kill 7-drop for another turn, and then now you have 2 7-drops on board, and it's just like now you're stunning my leader and my 10-drop every turn. Like, I could definitely see the deck being like an LCQ deck that you're just like, oh yeah, you don't know the matchups in games.
Okay, I can see that. I think like decks like that, like to me, fall under like strong enough, but you probably shouldn't play it.
Oh yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. I don't think it's good enough for now. I was just saying it is a deck that like is a good contender in my opinion for just being like a good rogue deck.
Okay.
Yeah, I think there's like it's funny because like when I talk to some people like because you talk to other people in other communities or you just listen to people play like at regionals and stuff like that, and it's like a lot of people actually just really enjoy playing like rogue decks. Like that's just their thing, right? They just want to play a rogue deck where like even Foxy, like you think about like the guy was in EU, I believe, that just like always plays red green law, but he does really well with it. It's like it's another deck where it's like people like you shouldn't probably play it at Nats, but like if you are just content on not playing anything else but like a rogue deck or a deck that's just not the meta, then it's like it's a good pick for you because that's probably what you've been playing for a while, right?
Yeah.
So like as long you just know how to like play the ins and outs where people are just gonna constantly be like, hey, can I read your card? What does that card do? And then like as the game progresses, you kind of forget about the card. You're like, oh, I forgot a card did that. I'm like, damn, I can't, I can't remove it or I can't swing. Then you're just like, oh man, I'm losing a lot of momentum because I don't know how to deal with this deck at all.
For sure.
Yeah, I unfortunately can recite most of Foxy's text because I wanted to play this deck at one point.
Ah, that's crazy.
It's wild.
I just wanted to
crazy.
play like a stun deck, and I couldn't play Boa because Boa sucks balls. And I was like, you know what? This deck seems pretty fun.
I mean, Boa next set.
Yeah, but next has been getting a
I'm
lot
not
of
touching
traction.
Boa. I'm not touching Boa. I
Sure,
got
we're a yellow green law group. I
Yeah.
forgot.
Yeah.
Hey, oh, okay.
Oh, oh.
All right, let's talk Lucci.
This is the deck I was waiting for. I think this deck is the
Biased.
second best deck. I think it's the
I do
second best
too.
deck. I'm not even gonna lie to
I
you. Like,
agree.
I
Yep.
think if
Yeah.
you are actually like a Lucci player and you because like if you expect like all Dofi, right, and you expect like say your matchup is like, okay, I expect Dofi, Shanks, purple Luffy, right, like you can build your deck to combat that, and then I think that you only lose to yourself, right, like because there's not going to be that much like other things that you're going to play. If there's not a lot of BY, if there's no teach, then like what are you worried about? Like out of all these decks, like what are you worried? There's no Nami. Those are all three of your worst matchups. Three of your worst matchups are gone. It's like why not play Lucci, right? Like I think no, it's just too good. I think the deck is actually just insanely strong if the other decks are out.
I think I was talking to one of my buddies, Matt, yesterday about this. I think this deck is like honestly top 2, and I think a lot of your games you can play out of your bricks more than people think. And it's like obviously, yeah, like if I don't draw Gecko or Jack or Kaido, and I sit here and have to like -3 my hand every turn, I lose. But if you see like a Gecko, I think you win a lot of your games.
Yeah.
And especially if you like, I think a lot of this deck will come down to the text. I think if you're not playing the right text for the meta, I do think you're like the deck sucks.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I agree. But say like my Dallas run, I was 8-2. I played Gecko 6 times the entire day. Like deck's just obscene.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was,
It's
I
obscene.
think,
It's obscene.
I think Wisconsin, I had multiple rounds where I either played no Gecko or I played like no Gecko and all Jacks, and I was just
Yeah.
like, yeah, we're jacking.
That's
Okay,
great.
you good? Yeah.
Hey,
I definitely like.
I was looking like Foxy alt at Wisconsin. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
I would say like if like obviously Dofi's the best deck, but like if the meta was only Dofi, I would say Lucci would be like the best deck, right? Like even in Asian when like the 09 first came out, like Lucci was gaining a lot of traction. Like people were like, man, Lucci's still the best deck in the format. Like what is going on? Like obviously other like decks started to come up, and Dofi obviously ran rampant, but I definitely think Lucci is just too good. Like just being able to do what Lucci does and just constantly having like pieces and outs. Like whenever I'm testing like or playing against like Hard or something like that, I'm like playing Shanks or any other deck, and he's just like remove 10 drop, remove 10 drop, remove 10. I'm like, all right, bro, like I can't do anything. I lose the game now.
Yeah.
Nothing I can do. Like if you're not at 0 life, I just auto lose, right? And that's the thing where Dofi has to kind of like shotgun you into 0 life, and if they don't, then you can't come back from that. You can't deal with the board. Jack gets a free KO every turn. Gecko gets the free swing into whatever it wants. So it's just like the deck is just really, really strong for like what we expect the meta to be.
Yeah. Also, especially against Dofi, I feel like a lot of the games you kind of like they sit at like 3 or 4 life, and then you just kind of kill them in 2 turns, like out of
Yeah.
nowhere.
Yep, pretty much.
I
Because
was
there's like, oh, 3 cards in hand? All right, we'll swing 7, 7, 9, 9.
7,
All right, we'll see next.
Gecko. Alright, swing leader, Rebecca, Sabo, Jack, kill your only guy on board, pass.
Exactly.
I think I was talking to Cross about it yesterday. The double femur list, I think actually, if like Lucci does pick up, I think the double femur list are actually a lot more justified.
Yeah.
But I think for right now, I don't think it's worth.
Yeah. I think you have to run double femur for sure if you expect Lucci, which I think like in terms of what I think is going to be the most played, I think those are the 3 decks, right? I think like Shanks, because it won and because a lot of people were playing Shanks, like even in like other discords and stuff, you hear people like, oh, I'm gonna play Shanks. Like I don't know what to play. I'm gonna play Shanks. Like I think because of that,
yeah.
those 3 decks are gonna be the most popular. And if you see that as like Dofi player, then just play 2 femur. Like it just gives you the only
Like-
chance, right?
Like Shanks being double the play rate of Dofi on the ranked sim, which like I know it's the ranked sim, whatever,
Yeah.
but like it being double the play rate of the deck that was 25% of the room this weekend is insane.
Yeah, that is crazy.
Like if even if it's just like a representation for what LCQ is gonna be, like I still think like Shanks, like honestly, like I think the top 6 decks are probably what, like if you're not taking one of those 6, like you're probably trolling. Like I think these are like by far the 6 like strongest decks, and I think it's just from there it is preference. But I think like definitely like this is like probably the 6 that I would say like if you're not playing one of those, like I'm concerned.
Yeah.
Or you have to have a very good reason.
I would tell everybody like Lucci's probably the best LCQ deck to take. I've told a couple people that. Like I think Dofi is obviously the best deck in the format, but like you go to LCQ, people are just there to kind of like knock you out, right? Like they don't care, right? They're like, if I make it, I make it. Some people really want to make it, but like you're gonna play a lot of different decks, and like Dofi is kind of bad into yellow, and like Lucci's good into yellow, right? Like you just beat it. I feel like just that deck alone is just so strong that you can take it and just be happy as long as you know how to play your outs, like play around them.
Yeah. All I'm saying is that if you came to this channel and were expecting anything else about Lucci,
Yeah.
you had the wrong thoughts. Like. Alright. Is there any other what other decks are there that's good enough to talk about?
Gecko Moria.
No, we cannot talk about Gecko Moria. That sucks.
No, you don't think I expect it now, right?
Oh,
You know, like
brother.
I didn't really think about it now a lot in this format, but there were some that like ended up undefeated until like round like 6 or something, right? I was just like, wow, that's crazy. What happened? Who are you playing?
I think
it's
no
just the
teach
worst.
is just good.
Yeah.
I think it's just the worst late game deck. I'm not gonna lie. In a meta where we have Bonnie and we have Shakes as like my grindy like late game decks, and we still have BY, like why am I playing an L?
Yeah.
And Shakes isn't even hard. Like the worst part is it's not even like you can like are you Bonnie? There's like a little bit of like execution to it. It is literally like Whitebeard. Like there is very little execution. It is draw my pieces, me go burr.
Yeah.
So it's just like why would I play an L anymore?
I would definitely never recommend anyone to play this deck at this
Yeah,
now.
I can't stand people that play it now. This deck has been the bane of my existence since it came out. I cannot. I can't imagine like how many round ones I've lost to Nell. Like you tell Hart, he's like, yeah, you always lose to Nell. I'm like, bro, if I see a Nell and I win, it's a good day. I hate that deck. I can't stand that. Hey, I didn't say Bello Betty. I said a Nell. He's been losing to Bello Betty a little
watch
bit.
out, watch
Hey,
out. You see,
gonna-
don't bring up
I'm not-
Bella Betty if you can get triggered, dude.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie. I actually
listen. We're gonna talk about this because now we started. We started. Okay, I'm gonna tell you this right now. I am so sick of hearing about this shit ass deck. Okay, like you go up to anybody, at any table, any fucking round, and you fucking shuffle up against Bello Betty, and you sit there like, please, can I draw fucking interaction? And if you draw interaction, they lose on the spot. If you do not have counters and interaction, you lose. No matter what deck you're playing, you can be playing BY, you can be playing anything. You will lose to Bello Betty if you don't draw 2Ks and some kind of way to interact with their board before they swing. That's just how it works.
Yeah, it is. It's actually sad. I can't stand it. It's another deck. Anything that has like yellow, except for BY, but like I just hate decks like that because it's like it's not really like up to you. It's just how you draw, right? If you see the pieces, then it's like okay, we're good. Like you can't do anything. You can't hurt me. But then if you're just sitting there looking for like a 2K or like looking for a way to just interact with the board and you don't get it, then you just okay. Now I just lose and this is like no fun for me at all.
Yeah, it's just like it actually doesn't matter what the Bello Betty player draws. If they draw Karasu or like something to like shit out another body, it does not matter, right? They just put anything that they have in hand on board, and if you can answer it, they lose the game. Like their God Curve does not do anything if you just have like, okay, I'll double law bounce both of your bodies. Okay, well I guess I lose because I didn't stick a body to use my leader effect, right? Or like, oh, I Rebecca Hina Lucci your entire board. Okay, well I cannot use my leader effect anymore. That's it. And I'm so sick of hearing about this deck because it's like whatever.
I can't believe people actually bring this deck to like actual big tournament. It's just crazy to me when I see her like, oh, there's a Bello Betty in the feed. I'm like, what is going on? Like, what does this guy wake up? What kind of energy did they choose today? Like, this is insane to me.
Yes, and I'm saying this as someone who lost to Bello Betty in the last Treasure Cup because I drew 1K. I had 1K in hand, and he Karasu'd me. Okay, and then my 7-card hand is 1K like 6 bricks. What do you do? Right? That's just how the game fucking works. But it doesn't make the deck good. It doesn't make the deck good. That's all I want to say.
I have one guy at my locals who has only been playing Bello Betty so far this set. And he has been on a tear. And I'm just like, there's no way this is real, right?
Yeah.
But I don't know. It might be the LCQ demon deck. Like, You
Nah,
might
nah.
just show up and go crazy, you know?
Don't give people that type of energy, man. Don't even make people
Or
believe
They're
that.
maybe
LC
do.
queuing.
It's
They're LC
funny.
queuing. Let them live their life.
Yeah, but
I
nah,
listen,
don't
listen, listen. If you're saying you're going to the LCQ and like you love this deck to death, yeah, like it's like here.
Yeah.
But like
Oh, yeah.
if you're playing the main event, this deck is here.
Yeah, no, it is.
No, they're bringing
This
it out of the
deck's not even
jar.
there.
Like that's all I'm saying. Like
They're pulling out of the jar. She's infused with power now.
oh my
You know?
God,
Jar is crazy.
that is crazy.
What about RP Luffy? We haven't talked
Yeah, I was
about
about
that
to
yet.
say,
Oh,
RP
totally
Luffy.
forgot about. You know, yeah. Where is he? Right here.
Rest in peace, Gavin.
Alright, I'm of the opinion this deck is good enough. Like if you see the matchup spread, but like maybe that's just like the sign of a deck that's probably something you shouldn't play.
I think you lose to all three of the top three decks, and I don't think you consistently beat Body or Luffy or BY. So
You think
I
you lose to
don't-
Shanks?
You
I
don't
definitely
lose-
think you lose to
you
Shanks.
don't lose
I
to
think his
Shanks. You
matchup-
don't lose to P Luffy. Or you
I
don't
think
hard
the
lose to
matchup-
P Luffy.
yeah.
is all
You
I'm
don't
saying.
hard lose, but I don't think you like farm it by any means either.
Sure.
I don't know.
I think the matchup's annoying for Shanks because like they play some of the same cards, right? Like a lot of
Yeah.
lists are running like the 10 drop Shanks and all that now. But I
And
think
your
even,
leader
like,
effect too is like
yeah, even, like-
inherently not useful because you're a
Yeah.
6K
I don't
leader.
remember
Yeah.
I don't remember who I was talking to. I think it was Eric. I was saying I think the only way that like the deck's better is if they're running like 4 pop Shanks and just nuke their board every turn, and then the Shanks player has nothing to play with, and then they don't have pop Shanks. That's like the only way I could see it being like a free matchup.
I think like you like
I mean,
the reason I think it's good, right? Because like you run Shanks, right? You learn like some of them run Whitebeard, and then like you still get like the most broken purple event in the game. And I think just that alone is like really strong. I don't know if I would take it, but I feel like it is a good like a good like sleeper pick, right? Like a lot of people don't want to play the best 3 decks. So, like, okay, I can't be a better like I don't like Shanks mirrors, or I can't be a better Lucci than this person. I haven't understood Dofi yet. Then it's like, all right, I'll take RP Luffy because like I get the same cards Purple Luffy does, and I get some of the cards Shanks does. So it's really good. You ramp really fast, and like you can put a lot of decent text in there to deal with certain matchups that you don't feel like are favored for you. I don't know if I would ever put it like that you should bring it, but I think it's actually not a bad pick. It's just 3 life leader is insane, right?
I think it's like above Teach, and I don't think it's good enough. I would probably just put it above Teach.
No, okay. I'm gonna
I,
say this.
I think it's good enough.
I think it's good
Yeah.
enough. I think it's like right here, like probably like right next to Smoker. I'll tell you what,
Mm.
like you do beat Shanks most of the time as long as you draw ramp. Because like the thing that Shanks players complain about, right, is like they lose the die roll, the other guy goes second, and they're like, this guy just played 10 cost Shanks before me and I lose. Like what do I do? Right?
Yeah, if they drop 2 on you, the game's over.
This deck is just I play 9 drop or 10 drop, and then Shanks is on 7 down. They're like, okay, well I literally cannot like. The 9 drop, 10 drop is 10k at my face, and then he plays another one, and I'm like, okay, well, what do I do? Right?
Yeah, I think the 6K poke is actually really strong too, right? Because like
It
versus
does.
Shanks, you want to poke 6, and it's like every other deck that is swinging at you, they're gonna swing 5, so you just like you don't have to give up a card, but every turn they swing at you, you have to give a card up, and it's just like, man, at some point you just don't have resources, and then like you said, it's like, oh, I'm on 7 down, but they're playing 10 drop Shanks, I have to take every hit.
Yeah.
It's like, all right, I don't even have enough cards to like stop from the leader swing.
And,
think
and
I'm
the
not-
defense that RP Luffy has is actually absurd. Like Gongon Giant, Onami, and Queen is just obscene, like filtering ability. Plus, like just
and
being a
it's,
blocker too.
and it's 2 sets of like really good rushers, right? Because you play the 10 cost Shanks, and you play the 9 cost Luffy that replaces itself, so you can hold Gungam Giant, right? Like
Yeah.
it actually really is like incredibly frustrating.
Some lists even run like I said, some lists run Whitebeard, but some lists also run like 7 drop Kid.
7 cost.
So then it's like,
so
yeah.
annoying.
Then it's like now you're a 7K leader with a Gum Giant. Hey, bro, like, how do I even get past? I have to swing 11 just for you to give me like 3 cards. Like, this is actually crazy.
Yeah, we were watching Gavin play a mirror today, like RP Luffy mirror, and it was just like the other guy had 2 7 cost kids. He was an 8K leader in perpetuity and had all 4 of his giants.
Yeah, like at that point, you just can't get over that wall. Even with Shanks, right? Like even if they have a Shanks on board, you're swinging 11 at a 7K leader, and it's like, all right, like it's just I can deal with everything else. I'll just counter this, and you can't swing at me.
Yeah. But yeah, like I'm like very strong, like firm about this. It's actually good enough as long as you see the matchup spread.
Yeah, I think it's a good deck. I think it's a really good deck to consider.
Yeah.
What else is there?
Oh,
no.
Zero.
Mm,
This thing? I don't know. Okay, I'll be honest. This is here for me.
Chopper.
I don't even want to think about it. Like,
Chopper.
did they get
I
I was
anything
the
else?
guy who like hated Zoro.
Oh, I'm
Like, 2
trolling.
months
I just
ago?
hate the deck.
Yeah.
I just hate the deck.
I was about to say you better just put red green law up there before you put this deck up there. Like,
Hey,
Red
don't
Green
say
Law's
that.
also
Don't
here
say
for
that.
me.
You'll
Honestly.
trigger fee.
Hey,
He'll buy the alt right
nah,
now.
I don't think the deck is a terrible choice. I think it's alright, but I don't know like why I would pick it over anything else.
Oh yeah.
Unless like even like the same thing with like red green law, Rebecca, those type of decks is like why pick it over anything else, right? Just play one of the better decks of the same color.
It just feels like the wrong format to be like low to the ground, swarmy, do
Yeah.
that bullshit. Yeah.
Like teach isn't a thing right now, so it's like you don't even need to play that.
Yeah. I will say though that like I guess if you're like a one trick or whatever, like this is like really is at the bottom of this, right? Because like if you see like Dofi and you draw your Otamas and stuff like that, you don't see this Lucci guy, and you run to the Shanks players that aren't playing Red Hawk. Your matchup is kind of playable, but like I wouldn't tell you to play it.
Yeah, no, I mean
Yeah.
you destroy like every other deck, right? Like you just run over Teach, like you just destroy Nami. So it's like you actually have a good like room to actually say like, hey, I might take it, but
Room.
realistically, it's like
Oh, rude.
Guys, he said the
yeah.
phrase. He said the phrase.
Yeah. I think it's
You also dog walk Ploofy.
yeah.
God, dude.
Yeah.
I'm hearing it's good enough for Nats, guys.
No,
That's
I
what
think,
I'm hearing.
Yeah, no.
Yep,
I mean,
feet. That's your
generally
cope deck.
is- No, I mean,
Fee, it's time. You gotta play
Yeah,
Bunny or Red Green Law.
I would not recommend this to people, but
no,
if-
you
if
have to be
if
like a
you're-
one trick.
yeah, if you're a one trick, like it's right here.
Yep. So if you're the one dude who like still tops it over in Europe, fine.
Yeah, no, for
If
sure.
you're
Like,
him,
You're allowed. Everyone
Yeah,
else, put it away.
yeah,
Is
please
there
don't
any
play
other
that.
matchups worth talking about? This Kato deck, we gotta talk about yellow. If we talk about that, we gotta talk about this.
Put him back in the
That's-
groove.
That's
He doesn't
my.
even get. He
I
didn't
hate
make it
that
on the
deck,
tier
dude.
list.
I hate that deck so much.
I mean, that's like Shank's worst matchup, but other than that, I don't know what else you beat, right? Like,
Yeah,
consistently.
I literally have no idea what else you beat.
It's just like, hey, I beat Shanks, but that's it, right? Like, don't you just lose everything else?
I think Vegapunk is actually on here, by the way.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about him. I'll be honest.
Oh, yeah.
I just
He's right by Boa.
right by Bo, this guy.
I don't even know if he's. I don't even think he's good enough. I'm just saying he is a deck that is like strong.
What does he do to P. Luffy or Shanks? Like, do you just die?
Explode.
Do you just win? Like, what happens?
I think you
I
lose.
don't know.
Explode.
He beats Dopey. He beats
Oh,
Dopey.
yeah, that's all I know.
Yeah.
He beats Dofi.
Yeah.
That's the only thing I know.
That's all he does actually. He just beats
He just-
Dofy.
Dopey, guys.
Hey, if you
He
expect
passes
to
butter.
beat Dofy,
He-
then yeah,
he-
it's not bad.
He beats Dopey, so he's strong, but not getting there.
Yeah.
Alright. I'll put it next to
Oh,
Teach.
what about Green Uta?
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I know. That's right.
Yeah.
That's
Alright,
when the deck
I
becomes a lot
kind
of
of like
practice.
looked at it like I think I just don't see the vision as much as I can believe the deck being playable.
Hmm.
Like I don't think like I would put it very high in this middle tier that like it's probably good enough, but like I don't know, you're just bad Dofi. I guess I don't know, like
Bad Dofy that draws 2 cards in return, but yeah.
Yeah.
my fault. my fault.
That's a crazy ability, but like yeah, I don't know. It's
It's just like when you draw the film cards
the
and
film
all the film
package.
cards
You gotta
sit-
say the film package is like so mediocre that it doesn't really matter that you're drawing 2 cards a turn.
Yeah, like, but I can
Um,
see it beating P. Luffy and beating Shanks, like, if you get going, but, like, I just don't see the vision otherwise. I feel like you just gonna die to Dofi, no? Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, because they're like
just
11
put it
cards in
there.
hand. Pudding.
Yeah, I think Dofi, BY, like Lucci. Like I think even Shanks sometimes if you don't get the good start, I think those decks just run over you, right? Like
yeah, if you get the good start, yeah. Like, if you don't get the good start, I have no idea what does your deck do, like...
it's just like why play that over Bonnie, right? If you're gonna play a green deck, right, you just play Bonnie, right? Like
Yeah.
you have better cards, and like yeah, the film package is cool and all that, but it's like, are you really doing that much, like compared to like what Bonnie does? I would just rather play Bonnie.
Yeah. Agree.
I think a green deck that actually is strong. I think GP Dofi is actually worth talking about.
Bro, I played GP Dofy this weekend and won on turn 4. No.
Hey,
Maybe turn 5.
I'm just saying.
That-
I'm just saying. I
that
made a
deck is
video about
horrible.
it, and the guy was kind of spitting with his reasons.
What do you,
Yeah,
what do you,
I mean,
what do
I'm
you,
sure
what do
on
you-
paper.
Okay. Sell me on this deck. I I get it. Like, if you're playing the stupid birdcage thing, you're supposed to be Dofi. Like, but is that enough? Like,
One word. Birdcage.
that's it. That's it. Okay, come on, bro.
Is that one word?
Is
It
that
is one
good
word.
enough?
Okay,
On the
I wasn't
card.
Sure.
It's
Okay,
one
I
word.
wasn't sure. I haven't
I
looked
don't-
at the card. Like
I don't know if it's good enough. I think I definitely can
It's-
see the
it's
vision
probably
between
not good
Dofi, but
enough.
yeah, I don't.
Not good
It's
enough.
probably the same tier as Vegapunk. It's just a cool deck, but I think it
think-
is strong.
I think if you're taking a deck like that and Vega, like right, like if you look at like Vega,
Yeah.
Anel, even Dofi, right? Like if you take any one of, even Foxy, right? You take any one of those decks, like you're just like, I'm gonna play 10 Dofis and I'm gonna beat all 10 Dofis, right?
Yes,
But then the minute you play anything else, you're like, okay, there's my first loss. And then once that keeps happening, you're just like X4, X5. He's like, man, I should have just played something else. Like
I
if
feel
you
like
can't
Uda's
get
also
Dofis.
in that tier. I
Yeah,
think Uda
yeah,
has
probably.
some bad matchups. I don't think
Yeah.
Uda isn't good enough either.
Yeah. I think if you just like if you could have that foresight where it's like, okay, I'm just gonna play nothing but Dofi. You know, like even if you played like 7 Dofi, right? Like I think it would be a good idea, but it's just the fact that you're risking everything just to play the best deck in the format. I don't think it's worth at all.
All right. I think we'll probably talk about this one. It's definitely disappeared a lot more since we talked about it at last Nats, and I think at the last Nats we kind of like downplayed it, but I mean, I guess it depends how you feel about it. I feel like
What's the Dofi matchup like? It's surely miserable, right?
I don't think
Yeah,
it's
it's
that
fair.
good. From what I've heard, it's
Yeah.
like if you have a good start, it's very playable. If you don't, then like I don't know, it's just not good. That's what I've heard.
Yeah, and then Pluvi's miserable.
Wait, we're
And
putting
then-
Reiju on the tier list?
I think we should. You know, it got second last Nats. Why not talk about it now?
That's true. I mean,
There's-
yeah, you can't.
There was
deny
no
it.
Dofi or Pluvi at last Nats.
Yeah,
Well, there's
yeah.
one.
Alright, so he's in the strong tier. Got it.
But didn't
No.
Kloofy lose to Reiju on stream at last Nats?
No,
Mhm.
Andrew won. Yeah.
Oh,
it
he
was-
won? Oh,
Yeah,
My bad.
yeah.
My fault.
I think you lose to all the top decks. Like I don't know how it beats Shanks. I don't know how it beats like Lucci. Like I guess you can like
Yeah,
if you
it could,
see the
it could beat
pieces.
Lucci.
Like, yeah, well, like if you see the pieces, yeah, right. Like if you're fast enough, but I
No,
think
no,
like even like BY, you just get ran over. So I don't know. I think for BY, that's like a buy unless they have pudding.
Yeah,
Right,
I
like,
will.
Even
I
if
will
they
say.
do, honestly.
I will say now that we don't play Kuzan anymore. Or
I'm about
like,
to say no Kuzan makes it rough.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like, I'm pretty sure this deck has a winning matchup.
I would agree.
But
Unless you like just open up like Brooks triple ices or some shit.
Yeah. I mean, if you're like tech out for like Dofi, you probably should have some more techs like pieces and stuff that could deal with it. But
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, if the deck is fast enough, then I do think that it will give you some trouble.
yeah. I think that's all the relevant decks. I don't think there's anything else to talk about. Unless you want to talk about these leaders here, like Limbs. Let's talk about Sanji, because I guess people do like this deck.
Yeah, we're Shanks. Yoo-hoo.
Yeah.
just
I
for
played
Shanks
Sanji this
there.
weekend too.
Yeah.
Nah, it was fine. He threw some vanillas at me.
This just seems
That's
like
about
worse
it.
aggro Shanks. Is that just me?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think if you like, because I tried it for a little bit. I think if your opponent just stabilizes, like Lucci's a really bad matchup. I think if they just stabilize a little bit, you just lose, right? Because there's like nothing
Yeah.
you can do. You don't play removal. You just play like bodies that can swing at you, right? Like rush bodies, good bodies, and it's like if you tech the deck out enough, maybe, but then you probably sacrifice other matchups. It's just not worth.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like that removal Sanji build, like it has a pretty okay matchup into Dofi, but I don't think it's better than removal Shanks. So like, why would you ever do
Yeah.
it?
This one, the first European case tournament. How do we feel about this Lim character? Lim card.
If you can get rid of Zora, you're fine.
Yeah.
That's about it.
I'm in the same boat as that. Yeah, like probably not good enough, but I can like it's
Nah.
almost there, right? Like
No,
OP10.
not Lim. Not
But so I have a
Lim.
friend here who's like been trying to test it, and we played the other night when I was on Lucci, and he was like, "Okay, so I'm just gonna dodge Lucci." I'm like, I don't know if that's entirely true, but there's probably some other things to dodge.
Yeah.
But Lucci for sure.
I think that's more of a deck where you need to know what it does. Like
Yeah.
like going into Nats, you should know what the deck does. So just in case like you run into the round one, it's like okay, I didn't lose because I had no idea what these cards do.
You just ramp into
Watch out for
like
that
some of the
Robin.
best top end though, right? Because
Yeah,
like
yeah.
you can play 9 Luffy, you get to play, or no, you don't. You can't play 9 Luffy. It comes in tapped. Holy shit.
Yeah.
You play Zoro? You
Yeah,
play
baby.
Zoro.
You can play Zoro tapped.
Yeah.
And then, if you somehow have a way to cheat Dawn, you could pay to Dawn to activate main and restand him.
Yay!
Mm. It's catching a swift 16 to the mouth.
Yeah. All right. I think that's.
No.
I think that's like.
Uh,
I guess to close this out, let's just revisit these two. Not looking at this where we put everyone. Are we leaving Bonnie and P. Luffy here at the top? of that middle
I
tier?
think they're. I don't know if they're strong enough, but they're definitely the highest of the good enough. I don't
So,
know if
like-
they should. I don't think they're 100% guarantee you should. I think they are. At least with Floofy, I think he's too weak in a Dofi, and I think with Bonnie, it is a if you are good with the deck.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the only argument I'd make is like is so like Bonnie I think can lose to like you said like to a good Dofi and like a good Shanks and obviously gets dog walked by Lucci. But like Luffy I think has a pretty 50-50 into Lucci and Shanks. I think it's dog walked by Dofi, so I don't think you can justify putting him in that top tier. Like essentially.
Okay. Fair enough.
Yeah, I could leave it. I mean, I think I could see a case for both, right? Because like I
Yeah.
said, like the factor of like the mental factor where you don't have to stress yourself out, or like the top 3 decks, you're gonna have to really think about a lot of different things you want to be doing in those matchups.
Yeah.
Or like some people will start playing a little slower because there's a lot of things you could do where it's like Luffy is literally like, hey, I'm on 7 Dom, Luffy Taro. I'm on this Dom, play this. Like it doesn't require too much. So I think it's not a bad deck to take. I would put it where you should bring it because I think the first 6 are just like the guarantee where it's like pick one of these 6 and go to Nats. If not, like what are we doing?
Yeah.
I think that's pretty much it. I think those 6 are the only ones that I expect to see consistently. Like the top 6 will be any one of those in any order, but then just like people just decided to kind of meme or want to check out and beat like certain matchups.
Yeah. If it was up to me, I think I would just bump these 2 up like this. But like at the same time, like I don't think there's much difference between being up here and being at the top of this right here. Like if
I
you
mean,
want-
I'm cool with saying we have a top 5. Like, I agree. I mean, we could just say we have a clear top 5, and then like we have 5 other alternatives.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
a
But
BY
if
player,
if
bro.
we're doing that, I don't think Sanji's one of the alternatives.
Yeah, I don't
That's
think so
true.
either.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Going down
I'm
to-
biased because I want BY in the should bring the Nats, but like that's just me because I'm biased, right? Like I think you can beat every matchup up top, but I don't. I said I mean like you still can kind of beat Bonnie. I think that the rest of the matchups aren't that bad. I
Pluffy's miserable, I promise. That's
I
like
mean
I
I
think
I
that's
think
your
it
worst
is
matchup.
it is bad. I think it is bad, right? Like I think Luffy probably is now your worst matchup for sure. I just think like the problem is like I said earlier, you don't have to do much as Luffy, right? Like you
Mhm.
just see the cards, play cards. So there's not I don't know like outplaying a Luffy that sees what it needs to see, right? Like you just lose.
Yeah.
So I think that's what makes it hard. It's like okay, like I'm not outplaying my opponent because like they're not gonna make mistakes. They're gonna just play the card that
Just
they
swing.
have. Yeah. So it's like okay, like what can I do to this?
It's like, oh, they put the 9 then like, all right, cool. All right, guess I lose. There goes my
Yeah.
one blocker, Sabo.
Yep.
All right. I think then we're good to call it here. Then let's, like the last 2 can move up or down. Depends on your argument there, but
Mhm.
I think that's it. Anything else you guys want to talk about, guys, before we close out?
What do you
I
have you
think-
guys discussed what you're bringing in Nats yet? Any like top 2 decks you guys are thinking, or is it
This is
everyone's
the
just playing
cult,
Lucci?
bro.
I think we're all,
Okay, that's what
I think
thought.
we're all 3 just Lucci Gucci at this point.
Oh, Lucy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
that's
haven't
fine.
bought the final
Maybe-
Sanjis to play Pluffy, but nah, after this
Maybe-
weekend, bro.
Maybe
mm,
JP swaps. Maybe JP plays Shanks or Pluffy. But I think
I-
everyone else
I'm not
is
playing
like
Shanks.
set in stone unless
JP's
Fee
getting
decides to
led
play
astray.
Bonnie last minute.
Yeah,
Yeah.
my 2 right now are like Dofi and Shanks, and then it's like break glass in case of emergency. It's Lucci. It's just like, I'm gonna test the rest of this week those 2 decks, and then if it's like I don't feel comfortable, we're going with Lucci. Like, oh, faithful.
Fair
That's just how
enough.
it is. Yeah.
I
it's a
think
good
just
enough
easy
pick.
as Lucci. Do you have a pretty clear cut plan into anything? And that's just I don't like that thing on your board. I'm putting it in the trash.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's pretty much it.
I really like being able to just game plan all my matchups, and then from there, a lot of play more than anything else, and a lot of it like less reliant on my opponent.
Mhm.
Yeah. I think if Lucci sees what it needs to do, keeps the board clean, you win, right? And then if it's like,
Yep.
if there's not that many BY or like not teach, then it's like, why not bring Lucci? Like, what is stopping you from bringing Lucci, right? Like, you beat everything else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, let's call it there. Thanks everyone for watching. We really appreciate Kush for coming on, and
Appreciate
hopefully
being
he comes
invited.
back on again later. All right, guys. Have a good one.
Peace.